Part 44. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 432. What are you two whispering about? Suddenly someone behind him chuckled. Li Jie and Xiao Jiao turned around and saw Zhou Ziyu walking out of the room. Xiao Jiao looked at Zhou Ziyu, his face full of displeasure and hostility. This week the fox ruined her good deeds again. Zhou Ziyu seemed not to notice Xiao Jiao's hostility, smiled charmingly at Li Jie, and swayed to sit next to the two of them. Honey, are we still going to Sanya to celebrate the new year this year? Well, it's the same as last year. Li Jie smiled and reached out to hug her. Seeing Zhou Ziyu so close, Xiao Jiao felt even more unhappy. At this time, Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xian walked down the stairs one after another, and saw Li Jie hugging each other. The two of them came to the sofa nearby and sat down. Li Jie let go of Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu, stood up, sat down between Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi, and hugged them again. Does any of you want to go home for Chinese New Year this year? Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi looked at each other and shook their heads. In fact, Lu Kaiyu wanted to go home. She didn't go home for the new year last year. Her parents would be even more upset if she didn't go back this year. But Xiao Jiao and the others didn't leave, and she didn't want to be absent. Li Jie glanced at Lu Kaiyu and said, Xiao Yu, after the new year, I will accompany you home to meet your uncle and aunt. He originally said he would accompany Lu Kaiyu home during the winter vacation, but he kept putting it off. After hearing this, Lu Kaiyu couldn't help but show joy on her face and let out a light hum. Li Jie coughed lightly and said with difficulty, I want to bring a friend to spend the new year with us this year. When Xiao Jiao and the others heard this, they looked at each other with strange eyes. Friend, Xiao Jiao chuckled, implying a deep meaning. Is it that Wang's Haining? Li Jie nodded, yes, that's her. Her mother just passed away not long ago, so she spends the new year alone. It's so pitiful. She celebrates the new year with us. There are so many people and it's so lively, so she won't be too lonely. Xiao Jiao smiled and nodded, with an expression of approval, with you helping to soothe people's bodies and minds, they won't be lonely anymore. When Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi heard this, they all couldn't help laughing and looked at Li Jie teasingly. Pitiful. It is true that they all sympathize with Wang's Haining's experience, but it does not mean that they will accept Wang's Haining. It is absolutely impossible to get started. Li Jie's face turned red for a rare moment, and they became less and less interested in giving him face. What a lethargic husband. Zhou Ziyu stopped smiling. Husband, we all sympathize with her experience, but I still don't think it's appropriate for her to spend the new year with us. I have no objection, Xiao Jiao suddenly interrupted Zhou Ziyu. Zhou Ziyu's expression changed slightly and she turned to look at Xiao Jiao. Xiao Jiao smiled at her, her expression seemed to say, this is beyond your expectation, right? No matter how stupid she is, she should have a better memory after suffering so many losses. She would not be a bad person again and let Zhou Huixu take the opportunity to pretend to be a good person. I think it's pretty good. The more people there are, the more lively it will be. I'll take Sister Wei with me, otherwise she'll be quite lonely during the Chinese New Year. After saying that, Xiao Jiao paused and turned to look at Zhou Ziyu. Zhou Fox, you can also bring that Zhao Minjiao over. The more people there, the more fun it will be. Husband, what do you think? Of course Li Jie would not object. He was a little surprised that Xiao Jiao suddenly became so generous. But this is definitely a good thing. With this in mind, he looked at Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi again. Xiao Yu, darling, what do you think? Lu Kaiyu glanced at Xiao Jiao, then at Zhou Ziyu, smiled and said, I don't have any objection either. Shen Xinyi also expressed that he had no objection. Zhou Ziyu's eyes passed over Lu Kaiyu, Li Jie and Shen Xinyi, and finally fell on Xiao Jiao. This Xiao Qiao has become smarter and is a little harder to deal with. Then I have no objection. Wang Zhaining got up early the next morning, her eyes slightly red, and she didn't look like she had a good rest. However, she was in a good mood, with a pleasant smile on her pretty face. Last night, after receiving a message from Li Jie saying that he would take her to Sanya to celebrate the new year, Wang Zhaining was so happy and excited that she didn't sleep well all night. After washing, she simply packed her luggage and drove to Sandalwood Villa with Ruanjing. 15 or 6 minutes later, the Audi A3 slowly drove into the villa area. Under Ruanjing's guidance, Wang Zhaining drove the car and stopped in front of a Florentine-style villa in Italy. After getting off the car, Wang Zhaining looked at this luxurious villa and couldn't help but feel a little timid. This was her first time coming to Li Jie's home. Ruanjing glanced at her and said, "Zhaining, shall we go in?" "Okay," Wang Zhaining nodded and walked into the villa with Ruanjing. The spacious and luxurious living room was empty, with no one around. They arrived too early, it was just past 7 o'clock, and Li Jie and Xiao Qiao hadn't gotten up yet. Wang Zhaining looked around, then sat down on the sofa with Ruanjing and waited quietly. At around 7:20, Zhou came out of the room and noticed Wang Zhaining on the sofa, but she seemed not to have seen her. She just said hello to Ruanjing, and then took the two bodyguards Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi with her. Drove away. Wang Zhaining knew Zhou. They were both classmates at the Normal University, and they were both strong contenders for the school beauty. When they were at Fengxian campus, the two were equally popular. So when she saw Zhou, Wang Zhaining was really surprised that this beautiful writer was also Li Jie's woman. No wonder it was rumored in school that her boyfriend had a very good background. With this thought, Wang Zhaining stood up and wanted to say hello to the other party. Unexpectedly, Zhou completely ignored her. Wang Zhaining's stubbornness came back again. "What's so great about it, aren't you also Li Jie's lover? Li Jieming's girlfriend is Xiao Qiao, not you Zhou. Everyone's status is the same, and no one is superior." Wang Zhaining glanced at Zhou, sat down again, and ignored him. It wasn't until almost 8 o'clock that Li Jie came downstairs in his nightgown. He was not in good spirits and looked a little tired. Last night he worked hard many times and didn't get a good rest. "Xiaoning, you're here." Wang Zhaining stood up from the sofa and wanted to pounce on him, but she suppressed the conflict in her heart and just said softly. She felt that there was suddenly a barrier between her and Li Jie. He is the man of the house and she is just the guest. There was a sound of footsteps, and Xiao Qiao ran downstairs in a hurry. Seeing that she was about to run out, Li Jie couldn't help but said, "Qiao Bao, what are you doing?" "I have to pick up Sister Wei quickly, otherwise it will be too late." Xiao Qiao pestered Li Jie to fight till the end last night and was almost exhausted, so he got up late. After saying that, she noticed Wang Zhaining. "Are you Zhaining?" "Sister Xiao Qiao," Wang Zhaining said with a guilty conscience. In front of Xiao Qiao, her real girlfriend, she still felt a little ashamed. Xiao Qiao looked Wang Zhaining up and down. This girl looked a little arrogant, but her attitude was still good. She was much more pleasing to the eye than Zhou. Li Jie glanced at Xiao Qiao and reminded, "Don't run out alone, take your bodyguard with you." "Okay, I get it." Soon, Xiao Qiao also drove away with his bodyguard. Li Jie said to Wang Zhaining, "Xiaoning, can I show you around the villa?" "Yes." Wang Zhaining nodded lightly. "Take half a day off, that's all for today. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 433. Li Jie took Wang Zhaining around the villa and took a closer look. The villa is 3 stories high. The first floor is the living room, dining room, and kitchen, as well as a large bedroom and a nanny's room. Zhou's room is on the first floor. There are 3 large bedrooms on the second floor. Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi share one room each, and there is one room that is empty. There are two large bedrooms and a study room on the third floor. Li Jie lives in the master bedroom and Xiao Jiao lives in the second bedroom. Wang Haining followed Li Jie and looked around. This villa was too luxurious. The retro and grand European design, marble Roman columns, arched doors, spiral staircases, and gorgeous crystal chandeliers made her feel like she was in a palace. A feeling of. From the dining room, kitchen, cloakroom, reception room, swimming pool, terrace, from the first floor to the third floor, Li Jie took Wang Haining to visit the villa inside and out. Except for Xiao Jiao's room. In addition, Li Jie did not take Wang Haining to his master bedroom. Last night was a little ridiculous. Xiao Jiao and Shen Xinyi both slept in his master bedroom. Although Xiao Jiao was up, Shen Xinyi was not yet up. She was also very tired last night. He only took Wang Haining to look at the empty room on the second floor. The room is very large, not only has a study room, but also an independent cloakroom. The view of the landscape is excellent. The oversized glass windows provide a panoramic view of the green mountains and green waters outside. Wang Haining looked at it, feeling indescribable fondness in her heart. She couldn't help but have the idea that if she could move in, she would also be the owner of this villa. After Li Jie took Wang Haining to visit the villa, Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi also got up. Everyone came to the restaurant to have breakfast together. Regarding Wang Haining, Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi, their attitudes were neither salty nor cold, neither cold nor enthusiastic. Before the meal was finished, Zhou Ziyu came back with Zhao Minjiao. After a while, Xiao Jiao also came back with Bai Wei. Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, Wang Haining, Bai Wei, Zhao Minjiao, looking at the 7 beautiful girls with different styles and personalities in front of him, Li Jie couldn't help but have an idea in his heart: this lineup can be filming a movie called The Deer and the Cauldron. Although he was definitely aggrieved by playing the little scoundrel Wei Xiaobao, he wouldn't mind being aggrieved if Xiao Jiao and the other 7 were to play the heroines. Li Jie still liked the novel The Deer and the Cauldron, and his favorite was the scene where Wei Xiaobao and his group of wives had a group fight on the big bed in Lishun courtyard. I wonder if he will have a chance to have that scene with Xiao Jiao and the others during this trip to Sanya. At around 10 o'clock, after packing their luggage, Li Jie took Xiao Jiao, 7 girls, and 8 or 9 bodyguards, drove 5 or 6 cars, and headed to the airport together. Arriving at the airport, a group of people walked into the airport lobby in a mighty manner, and everyone immediately looked at them. First, the ostentation was too big. Second, the 7 of them, Xiao Jiao, are so beautiful. It is rare for ordinary people to see so many beautiful girls together. Many people thought it was a group of celebrities traveling and asked curiously which celebrities they were. Li Jie had already reserved a first-class cabin on a flight, but there were only 8 seats in the first-class cabin, which was only enough for Li Jie and Xiao Jiao. The 3 bodyguards Ruanjing, Lu Ji, and Lu Yingqi could only sit there. Go take business class. As for the other male bodyguards, they were all sent away. They were only here to carry the luggage. If the mobile phone instant messaging software development plan succeeds next year, Li Jie plans to buy a medium-range business jet with 15-17 seats. Having a private jet not only gives you face, but also makes traveling more convenient. However, buying an airplane is not expensive, but subsequent maintenance is too expensive. A mid-range business jet is just a small target, nothing to Li Jie now, but this kind of business jet costs hundreds of thousands every time it flies. Even if it is left alone, the fixed management cost is 600 to 710,000. Owning such a plane is equivalent to burning a luxury car worth 10 to 20 million a year. Without a certain status, there is really no need to buy a private plane. After Zhao Laojin retired, he could no longer afford his luxury private jet worth 200 million. He wanted to sell it at a 50% discount, but no one was willing to take it over. Of course, with Zhao Laojian's wealth, it's definitely not a problem if he can't afford a plane, but he really feels sorry for the money. After all, after retiring, there is no place where he needs to use a private jet. After flying for more than 3 hours, the plane arrived at Sanya International Airport. As soon as Li Jie and his party walked through the security checkpoint, they saw Shen Baishan already waiting with 4 or 5 bodyguards. Under the escort of a group of bodyguards, Li Jie and his group left the airport in a mighty manner, and then rushed to the villa on the beach in 5 or 6 cars. After arriving at the villa, Li Jie sent Shen Baishan and the others away. He was vacationing with Xiao Jiao and the others, so naturally he would not allow other men to exist. However, Shen Baishan and the others did not go far. They rented a villa nearby for the new year and were on call at any time. This villa is so beautiful. Zhao Minjiao looked at the sea view villa, her eyes lit up, and she couldn't help but admire it. Wang Zhaining and Bai Wei also nodded in agreement. Compared with the villa in Tan Palace, this first-line sea view villa has a more modern and fashionable design style, and is more popular among young people. Xiao Jiao smiled and said, "Sister Wei, Xiaoning, let's go, I will show you around. This villa is even more beautiful inside." Xiao Jiao and Wang Zhaining seem to be very close to each other. Although they have not known each other for a short time, they are already fighting fiercely. Seeing Xiao Jiao and the others entering the villa, Zhou Ziyu also said to Zhao Minjiao, "Minjiao, I will show you around too." After saying that, she also pulled Zhao Minjiao into the villa. Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi looked at each other and followed them into the villa. Li Jie looked at their backs and sighed in his heart. Their tendency to form cliques was becoming more and more obvious, and even Xiao Jiao was playing tricks. After Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu took Wang Zhaining, Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao to visit the villa, everyone returned to the living room on the first floor, and Li Jie began to allocate rooms. This villa only has 6 rooms. With so many people here this time, we definitely can't have 1 room per person like last time. Qiao Bao, you and Bai Wei share a room. Xiao, you and Zhao Minjiao share a room. Xiao Yu, you and Guai share a room. Xiaoning, you and Ruanjing share a room. Lu Ji, you and Lu Yingqi share a room. After assigning rooms to Xiao Jiao and the others, Li Jie asked them to go back to the room to pack their things. He was also going to go back to the room to rest for a while. He worked a little too hard last night and didn't get a good rest. At this time, Xiao Jiao suggested with a smile, "Hubby, let's go swimming at the beach together later." She had wanted to swim for a long time, but the winter in Shanghai was still too cold, and the outdoor swimming pool in the villa was not suitable for swimming at all. As for going to the swimming pool, Li Jie, a very conceited guy, would not allow them to go to the swimming pool at all. However, in Sanya now, the time after 2 p.m. is perfect for swimming. And today the sun is shining brightly and the weather is excellent. Swim. Li Jie didn't want to swim at all. In the summer, he saw Xiao Jiao and the others wearing swimsuits every day, and he no longer felt any novelty. However, after his eyes fell on Bai Wei inadvertently, he changed his mind. In fact, it's not bad to go swimming for exercise. All right. Xiao Jiao then said to Bai Wei and Wang Zhaining, "Sister Wei, Xiaoning, let's go together." Wang Zhaining smiled and nodded, but Bai Wei refused. "Xiao Jiao, you go, I won't go, and I can't swim." "It doesn't matter if you don't know how to swim, I can teach you," Li Jie said with a smile. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi all looked at him in unison. Their implicit and meaningful looks made Li Jie, an old man, feel a little embarrassed. "Husband, you are quite willing to help others," Xiao Jiao's tone was very playful. After saying that, she took Bai Wei's hand, shook it and said, "Sister Wei, let's go together. If you don't know how to swim, I can teach you. Is it okay?" Okay, I'll go, just stop dangling. Bai Wei couldn't bear Xiao Qiao's plea and agreed. When Xiao Qiao heard this, a victorious smile appeared on his face. She had previously invited Bai Wei to come to Sanya to celebrate the new year, and this was how she got her to agree. Xiaoning, can you swim? I know a little bit, Wang Haining said. That's a pity, Xiao Qiao said, looking at Li Jie teasingly. Or someone would be happy to teach you how to swim. At this time, Zhou Ziu also said to Zhao Minjiao, can you swim? I won't. Zhao Minjiao shook her head lightly. That's okay, Zhou Ziu said, looking at Li Jie teasingly. You can let Mr. Li teach you. Li Jie glanced at Xiao Qiao with a smile, and then at Zhou Ziu. They are becoming more and more presumptuous. How dare they tease him like this? It seems that we must give a good education tonight. Forget it, let's educate them tomorrow night and have a good night's rest today. Zhao Minjiao said as if remembering something, but I didn't bring a swimsuit. Zhou Ziu smiled and said to her, it's okay. There are many swimsuits in the cloakroom of this villa, of various models. You can pick the one you like. This sea view villa is mainly used for vacations and swimming, and the most indispensable thing is swimsuits. Come on, let's choose a swimsuit first, Xiao Qiao said with a smile. Li Jie, Xiao Qiao and the others went to the cloakroom to choose swimsuits. But before Li Jie could enter the cloakroom, Xiao Qiao threw him a pair of colorful four-cornered swimming trunks and closed the cloakroom door. Okay, if you're a man, don't come in. Boom. Li Jie looked at the closed door and became more convinced that Xiao Qiao must be educated well. Taking the pair of swimming trunks and the suitcase, Li Jie went upstairs to the room. Instead of changing clothes in a hurry, Li Jie lay on the bed and rested for a while. He knows that it takes a lot of time for girls to clean up their rooms and change their clothes. I don't know how long it took, but just when Li Jie was about to fall asleep, Xiao Qiao's voice suddenly came from downstairs, hubby, have you changed your clothes? Right away Li Jie took off his clothes, put on the colorful swimming trunks, and went downstairs. When he came downstairs, his eyes couldn't help but light up. Xiao Qiao and the other 7 all put on those very cool and sexy swimsuits, and their good figures were undoubtedly revealed. In particular, Zhou Ziu, Lu Kaiyu, Wang Haining, and Bai Wei have excellent figures. They are tall and graceful, with white and flawless skin and extremely sexy curves. Although Shen Xinyi and Zhao Minjiao are a little shorter, they are also very connotative. They look innocent but are actually sexy. Among them, Zhao Minjiao impressed Li Jie even more. He thought that Shen Xinyi was already talented enough, but he didn't expect that she was even more talented than Shen Xinyi. Moreover, her waist is extremely thin, and her body proportions are a bit foul. Only Xiao Qiao was a bit speechless. In fact, her figure is not bad, but she is afraid of comparison. Bai Wei hugged her shoulders and felt very uncomfortable. This swimsuit was a bit too revealing for her and was no better than a bikini. It wasn't that she didn't want to find a more conservative swimsuit, but there was none in the cloakroom. One piece is more revealing than the other, and some are transparent and sexy. Don't tell me that kind of swimsuit, she blushed just looking at it. Noticing Li Jie looking at her, Bai Wei suddenly felt even more uncomfortable. Husband, your eyes are about to fall off, Xiao Qiao said with a smile. What are you talking about? Li Jie stretched out his hand and spanked her little butt. This Xiao Qiao actually slandered him. He only looked at Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao with admiration, and never looked around. Come on, let's go swimming. Li Jie, Xiao Qiao and the other 7 left the villa and came to the beach. This villa is less than 30 meters from the sea. It has a real sea view and opens to the sea. When they came to the beach, Xiao Qiao ran into the sea first as if he was having fun. Hey, slow down, Li Jie couldn't help but say. Although Xiao Qiao has learned to swim long ago, his water skills are not very good. Even though this was a shallow sea area and there was no danger, Li Jie was still worried that something would happen to her. "It's okay, my swimming skills are very good," Xiao Qiao said with a smile while paddling in the sea. Her swimming style has nothing to do with elegance, it can only be said to be quite cute. "It's true that the more you cook, the less self-aware you become," Li Jie said softly. "Brother Jie, what are you talking about?" Wang's Haining beside him asked. "Nothing, you all go into the water too." Lu Kaiu, Shenzhenyi, and Wang's Haining also entered the water one after another. Only 4 of them, Li Jie, Zhou Ziyu, Bai Wei, and Zhao Minjiao were left on the beach. Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao each held a large swimming ring and looked at the ebb and flow of the sea. They were both novel and a little scared. Zhou Ziyu smiled and took Zhao Minjiao's hand. "Minjiao, let's get into the water too." They also went into the water, and Li Jie and Bai Wei were the only ones left on the beach. Li Jie glanced at Bai Wei beside him, then at Xiao Qiao who was swimming happily in the sea, and couldn't help but shake his head. This Xiao Qiao is really unreliable. He just said he wanted to teach Bai Wei how to swim, but he forgot about it in the blink of an eye. With this in mind, he handed his hand to Bai Wei. "Bai Wei, let me take you into the water." Bai Wei glanced at Li Jie, hesitated, and still held his hand. Li Jie took Bai Wei's hand and walked slowly into the sea together. The beach was very soft and the sea water was very cool. However, as the water level got deeper, Bai Wei became obviously nervous. She hugged the swimming ring tightly with one hand and Li Jie's hand with the other. Li Jie smiled and comforted her and said, "Relax a little, don't be so nervous." Bai Wei glanced at him and nodded. Li Jie did not teach Bai Wei to swim bravely, but pulled her to swim to Xiao Qiao's side. "Husband, you are here," Xiao Qiao said while digging for water. "She cannot yet float and will sink as soon as she stops swimming. You come and teach Bai Wei how to swim." Li Jie handed Bai Wei over to her. "How about I give you a chance to show off?" Xiao Qiao said with a smile. "No need." After Li Jie said that, he swam out with a sudden movement. He is not the kind of character who stalks girls. Knowing that Bai Wei is wary of him, he will naturally not shamelessly stick to her. He had previously told Bai Wei to teach her how to swim, but that was just a joke. Li Jie was observing Xiao Qiao and the others while swimming. He found that the 3 best swimmers were Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiu, and Wang's Haining. In particular, Wang's Haining's swimming style is beautiful and sassy. She can swim 7 or 8 meters with one stroke, and it is extremely easy, just like a mermaid. Her water quality should be the best. I just said she only has a little water, which is really modest. However, Zhou Ziyu and Lu Kaiu also swam very well, one with graceful movements and the other with heroic appearance. Li Jie suddenly stopped swimming and looked around worriedly while floating on the water. Wang's Haining disappeared. She plunged down for a while, but she still didn't come up. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 434. Wow, suddenly there was a splash of water behind Li Jie, and Wang's Haining suddenly emerged from the water like a mermaid. Her waterfall-like hair was wetted by the sea water and draped over her white and smooth back. There was a moving smile on her bright beauty. "Brother Jie." Li Jie turned around, looked at her and said in a somewhat reproachful tone, "Don't just rely on your good water skills to stay underwater for so long, you know." As he spoke, he stretched out his hand to smooth Wang's Haining's wet hair. Good swimmers drown in water, and most of the people who drown are good at water. Wang's Haining looked at him with a smile and said, "Brother Jie, are you worried about me?" Without waiting for Li Jie to answer, she continued, "Then I won't dive for so long." After saying that, she continued swimming. Not far away, Zhou Ziyu, who was teaching Zhao Minjiao how to swim, looked at this scene. His face looked a little ugly, but he soon returned to normal. Although the change in Zhou Ziyu's expression was fleeting, it was still noticed by Xiao Qiao, who had been staring at her. A smile appeared on the corner of Xiao Qiao's mouth. She looked away and looked at Wang Haining again. Maybe the other party's appearance is not a bad thing. Xiao Qiao didn't notice that Bai Wei was staring at her with a complicated look in her eyes. "Husband, come here." "What?" Li Jie swam back to Xiao Qiao. Xiao Qiao glanced at Bai Wei and said with a smile, "I'm a little tired. Please help me teach Sister Wei for a while. If you're tired, you two should take a rest first and practice again later." Li Jie also glanced at Bai Wei. She held onto the swimming ring and pushed hard to keep her balance. "You can't rest. Sister Wei has just found some feeling, but as soon as she rests, she will be gone again." Seeing that Li Jie wanted to refuse, Xiao Qiao couldn't help but said, "Don't push back. I'm giving you an advantage by letting you teach Sister Wei how to swim." After saying that, she snatched Bai Wei's swimming ring and pushed her to him. "Hey, Xiao Qiao, what are you doing?" Without the protection of the swimming ring, Bai Wei lost her balance and her body began to sink. In panic, she subconsciously grabbed Li Jie's arm with both hands. Li Jie almost sank into the water when she pulled her hard, and he hugged her tightly, and the two of them were immediately close to each other. Feeling the soft touch on his chest, Li Jie couldn't help but take a breath. Xiao Qiao smiled and glanced at them. "Hubby, Sister Wei will be left to you." After saying that, she dragged the swimming ring and swam to the shore. Seeing that Xiao Qiao had taken away the swimming ring, Bai Wei couldn't help but became anxious. "Xiao Qiao, please return the swimming ring to me." "Sister Wei, you can't always rely on the swimming ring, otherwise you will never learn to swim," Xiao Qiao said without looking back. Bai Wei was helpless. She turned around and glanced at Li Jie, who was hugging her tightly. Her heart was beating fast and she felt indescribably nervous and flustered. "Li Jie, please let go of me." "Are you sure?" Li Jie asked with a smile. He could feel that Bai Wei was extremely nervous and her body was extremely tight. She seemed to be instinctively resisting this kind of intimate physical contact. "Okay." Bai Wei took a deep breath and said. "Okay, let go," Li Jie said and suddenly let go. Suddenly losing her support, Bai Wei lost her balance and began to sink. In the panic and struggle, she subconsciously hugged Li Jie tightly. Bai Wei couldn't help but feel relieved to have someone to rely on again, but when she looked up, she found that Li Jie was looking at her with a half-smile. His expression seemed to say, "I didn't take the initiative to hug you this time, you took the initiative to hug me." It's a bit disgusting that this guy took advantage of her and acted like a good boy. Bai Wei couldn't help feeling a little annoyed and turned away from him. "Bai Wei, let me teach you how to swim." Li Jie stopped smiling and stopped teasing her. Bai Wei also calmed down, glanced at him, and nodded, "Yes." Li Jie asked Bai Wei to lie on the water, held her slender waist with both hands, and began to teach her to swim in a disciplined manner. Bai Wei is very smart and learns things quickly. She learned from Xiao Qiao for a while before, and now she tried swimming for a while with Li Jie's help. She quickly got some tips and started to swim like a pro. "How about you try swimming by yourself?" Li Jie said. "Okay." As soon as Bai Wei said a good word, Li Jie suddenly let go. She panicked and couldn't swim again. She subconsciously hugged Li Jie again while struggling. "You think it's fun, right?" Bai Wei was really a little angry this time. Li Jie smiled and put his arms around Bai Wei, caressing her white and smooth back with his big hands. "Are you less nervous now?" When Bai Wei heard this, she was stunned for a moment, and then realized that she was indeed no longer resistant to this kind of intimate contact with the opposite sex. Li Jie continued, "Xiao Qiao asked me to help you, but there's only so much I can do. Let's go, I'll take you ashore." After saying that, he hugged Bai Wei and swam to the shore. For a girl like Bai Wei who is closed-minded and very defensive, she must not stalk her. The more shameless you are, the more disgusted she will be with you. You have to play hard to get, step by step, and open up her inner defenses little by little. It's not right. He didn't want to chase Bai Wei, so why did he think about it if he didn't have all these things? Li Jie was thinking wildly, but he didn't notice Bai Wei looking at him with complicated eyes. Xiao Jiao was lying on a lounge chair under a parasol on the beach, drinking juice leisurely. Next to her, Shen Xinyi was lying on another lounge chair, eating snacks. This Shen Guiguai is not very interested in swimming. He prefers to enjoy the sea breeze and eat snacks. Seeing Li Jie and Bai Wei come back, Xiao Jiao sat up from the chair and asked, "Hubby, why don't you swim anymore?" Li Jie looked at her, feeling a little funny. Xiao Jiao didn't know what to think, but she insisted on pushing her best friend to him. Are they really good sisters who can share anything? But he really has no interest in Bai Wei, he still has sexual interest. No, it's just interest. But Bai Wei's character is really difficult to deal with, and he is most afraid of trouble now. "Jiao Bao, please get up." "What?" Xiao Jiao stood up from the chair without knowing why. Li Jie didn't say anything and just lay down on her chair. When Xiao Jiao saw it, he immediately stopped and said, "This is my chair." It was with great difficulty that she moved this chair. "It's mine now," Li Jie said, taking Xiao Jiao's unfinished drink and started drinking it. He doesn't dislike her either. "You still drink my drink." Xiao Jiao gave up and put his arm around Li Jie's arm, trying to pull him up from the chair. But her small body could not pull Li Jie, but he pulled her down and fell into his arms. "Jiao Bao, come and give me a massage. You think beautifully." "Pa." Xiao Jiao's little butt was brutally attacked by Li Jie. "Who do you think wants to be beautiful? I'm just talking about you." Snapped. "Ah, you still hit me." Bai Wei couldn't help feeling a little envious as she watched Li Jie and Xiao Jiao having fun there. She couldn't help but have the idea that it would be better if Li Jie wasn't so carefree. In that case, she and Xiao Jiao will be together. No, what am I thinking about? They were all led astray by Xiao Jiao. Li Jie, Xiao Jiao and the others played at the beach until around 5 p.m., when the sun was setting, and then they returned to the villa together. Everyone made dinner together. Before coming to Sanya, Li Jie asked Shen Baishan and the others to purchase New Year's goods and daily necessities in advance, so the large kitchen of the villa has all kinds of ingredients. Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, Wang Zhaining, Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao each cooked 1 or 2 specialty dishes, and Xiao Jiao even showed off her cooking skills and cooked 6 or 7 dishes. However, she regretted it again after noticing Zhou Ziyu was lazing around. She worked so hard, but she allowed Zhou Hu to relax. The dishes were sumptuous, and everyone enjoyed the meal. Xiao Jiao, Shen Xinyi and Zhao Minjiao were all a little drunk. Xiao Jiao's face was flushed, and she leaned lazily on the sofa. "What should we do next?" Shen Xinyi suggested, "How about we watch a movie together?" "Okay, what are you looking at?" Wang Zhaining and Zhao Minjiao agreed. Li Jie suddenly said, "How about watching The Deer and the Cauldron?" "The Deer and the Cauldron?" Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, Wang Zhaining, Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao looked at each other and looked at him at the same time, with different expressions. Xiao Jiao snorted softly and said, "The Deer and the Cauldron? You think it's pretty beautiful?" Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi and others all expressed their agreement. Does Li Jie have a good idea? He doesn't think so. Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, Wang Zhaining, Lu Yufei, Lu Enzialan, Suyani, Nini, there are 9 girlfriends and lovers in total. Xiao Jiao, Shen Xinyi and Wang Zhaining discussed it and chose a movie called Love in the City that had just been released. None of them have seen this movie. Li Jie looked at the young and beautiful baby Yang on TV and found that she still had some acting skills at this time, and she didn't just stare. But then why did she only stare? Is the money too good to make? After watching them for a while, he felt that it was not interesting, so he stood up from the sofa. Look, I went to the gym. Not long after Li Jie left, Zhou Ziyu also stood up and left. Lu Kaiyu glanced at Zhou Ziyu's leaving figure and then stood up. Xiao Jiao stared at the big TV very seriously, completely unaware that two more people were missing. However, both Wang Zhaining and Bai Wei noticed it. Seeing Zhou Ziyu and Lu Kaiyu walking into the basement, Wang Zhaining hesitated and touched Xiao Jiao next to her. Xiao Jiao turned around and glanced at Wang Zhaining, still a little confused. At the other party's signal, she realized that Zhou Ziyu and Lu Kaiyu were missing. She suddenly stood up from the sofa. Zhou Huhu and Lu Changshan actually ate it secretly again. Li Jie came out of the gym after less than 10 minutes. He looked back at Xiao Jiao and Lu Kaiyu inside and sighed inwardly. He couldn't even do some exercise safely. Forget it, he'd better take a shower and go to bed early. With this thought in mind, he went upstairs to the bathroom. Xiao, why are you here? Li Jie couldn't help being surprised when he saw Zhou Ziyu standing in the bathroom with a smile. Zhou Ziyu took a step forward, stretched out two smooth and white jade arms, hugged his neck, then stood on tiptoes and whispered something in his ear. After Li Jie left the gym, Xiao Jiao glanced at Lu Kaiyu and turned to leave. Lu Kaiyu did not leave, but sat down on a piece of fitness equipment and started exercising. She came to ruin Zhou Ziyu's good deeds, but she was set up by the other party to block Xiao Jiao. Xiao Jiao searched the entire villa and found no sign of Zhou Ziyu. She was a little confused. Could it be that this Zhou Fox really didn't have any evil intentions and went back to his room to sleep? This doesn't look like her. The sound of water in the bathroom continued for an hour before it stopped. Then the bathroom door was pushed open from the inside, and Zhou Ziyu walked out wrapped in a bath towel. After a while, Li Jie came out. He wanted to take a night's rest. Why was it so difficult? With this thought, Li Jie returned to the room. But as soon as he closed the door and before he could turn on the light, he was hugged tightly from behind. Xiaoning. Brother Jie, how did you guess it was mine? Wang Zhaining said a little surprised. How did you guess it? She and Bai Wei are the only ones with a height above 170 centimeters. But there was no way Bai Wei could run over. Li Jie turned around, hugged Wang Zhaining, looked at her beautiful face in the dark, and sighed in his heart. He wanted to take a night's rest. Why was it so difficult? After Wang Zhaining left, Li Jie locked the door. If someone comes over again tonight, then he really has to. Li Jie slept soundly that night and didn't even have a dream. However, Xiao Jiao and Shen Xinyi were both in bad moods, tossing and turning and not sleeping well. Why are they both in a bad mood? Of course it was because I was rejected in the middle of the night. Early in the morning, while Li Jie was still sleeping, he was awakened by a deafening sound of firecrackers downstairs. He got up from the bed and went to the floor-to-ceiling window to take a look. He saw Xiao Jiao and Shen Xinyi both wearing chest-length skirts. One is white and light blue, and the other is light pink and light green. They both look extremely beautiful and charming. Those with flat chests, Xiao Jiao, and bun faces, Shen Xinyi, are suitable for wearing hanfu. At this time, the two of them were carrying a long bamboo pole to set off firecrackers all over the ground. Judging from the length of the firecrackers, they should be a large hanging whip with 1,000 rings. Finding Li Jie looking down, Xiao Jiao smiled and said something, but the sound of firecrackers was too loud to hear clearly. Didn't he just open the door for her last night? Is this Xiao Jiao going to take revenge on him like this? And this Shen Guiguai is no longer obedient. Not long after Li Jie lay down last night, he heard someone knocking on the door outside. But he really didn't want to open the business anymore, so he didn't open the door to Xiao Jiao. Why did Li Zhe know it was Xiao Jiao? Because Shen Xinyi and Lu Kaiyu will not insist on knocking for so long. Li Zhe opened the closet, took out a set of straight-skirted Confucian clothes with wide robes and long sleeves, put them on, then left the bedroom and went downstairs. In the living room, Wang Zhaining and Bai Wei were sitting on the sofa in their nightgowns and clothes. Zhao Minjiao was still yawning. Apparently they were also awakened by the sound of firecrackers. Li Zhe glanced at Zhao Minjiao and said, "Minjiao, you also broadcast live last night. This girl is really hard-working." Zhao Minjiao nodded, "Well, it played for a while." At this time, Zhou Ziyu and Lu Kaiyu also walked out of the room wearing undershirts. Wang Zhaining looked at the underskirts worn by Zhou Ziyu and Lu Kaiyu, and then looked at the Confucian clothes worn by Li Zhe. "Brother Zhe, are you all wearing hanfu today? I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 435. Yes, they all wear hanfu. Li Zhe glanced at Wang Zhaining, Bai Wei, and Zhao Minjiao. "Xiaoning, Bai Wei, and Minjiao, there are a lot of hanfu in the cloakroom, you all should go pick one and change into it." "Okay," Wang Zhaining stood up with a smile. She had never worn hanfu before, so she was really interested. Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao also stood up and followed Wang Zhaining to the cloakroom. "Husband," Xiao Jiao and Shen Xian ran in after setting off firecrackers. "Is my wake-up call service good enough?" Xiao Jiao said with a smile. "Pa," Li Zhe spanked her little buttocks, and then said to Zhou Ziyu and Lu Kaiyu, "Let's put up Spring Festival couplets together. Paste couplets, Chinese characters for blessing, and hang red lanterns." While Li Zhe and Xiao Jiao were busy working, Wang Zhaining, Bai Wei, and Zhao Minjiao also finished changing their clothes and came back one after another. Seeing Wang Zhaining, who was dressed in white hanfu, walking over, Li Zhe, who turned around, couldn't help but be stunned. Different from modern clothes, her ancient clothes are obviously more elegant, fresh, refined, and charming. Even her appearance is improved by a point or two, and she can really compare with Zhou Ziyu. She is worthy of being Lu Yufei's sister, with the same costumes. If I had known before, I would have asked her to film a costume drama. Not only Li Zhe, but also Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi all stopped what they were doing and set their eyes on Wang Zhaining. They were all obviously shocked. Zhou Ziyu looked at Wang Zhaining, with a serious look on his face for the first time, as if he was looking squarely at his opponent. She knew very well why Li Zhe liked her so much. Gentleness, consideration, and understanding were just one aspect. What's more important is that she is pretty enough, more beautiful than Xiao Jiao, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi. But now an opponent has appeared. Li Zhe looked away from Wang Zhaining and looked at Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao behind her. The two of them looked very good after wearing hanfu, especially Zhao Minjiao, who was wearing a light green and white chest-length undershirt. She was extremely beautiful and cute, like a little fairy walking out of a painting. Relatively speaking, Wang Zhaining, Shen Xinyi, Zhao Minjiao, and Xiao Jiao are more suitable for ancient costumes, and their appearance bonus is very high, while Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Bai Wei are still more suitable for modern costumes, and they are beautiful urban fashion beauties. "Brother Zhe, shall I help you?" Wang Zhaining walked to Li Zhe with a smile. Li Zhe looked her up and down again and said, "You are not wearing the right clothes." With that said, he gave the big red lantern in his hand to Xiao Jiao and let her hold it. Then he untied Wang Zhaining's belt and helped her tidy up her clothes. Her hanfu has a straight hem, and the skirt should be covered to the right and barbarian to the left. In addition, her belt is tied wrongly. Xiao Jiao held the big lantern and watched Li Zhe help Wang Zhaining tidy up her clothes with a look of disgust on her face. Not only Xiao Jiao, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi were also a little jealous. This Wang Zhaining is so favored. Zhou Ziyu glanced at Xiao Jiao, then at Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xian, but a smile appeared on his face. Okay, after helping Wang Haining tidy up her clothes, Li Jie said to Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao, Bai Wei, Minjiao, you two are wearing the wrong clothes. But this time he didn't do it himself. Instead, he asked Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziu to help them sort out their clothes. After pasting the couplets and the characters Fu, I hung up red lanterns. After the power was turned on, the two red lanterns hanging on both sides of the villa's entrance lit up immediately. It's finally done, Xiao Jiao looked at the lantern and clapped his hands, looking very accomplished. The horizontal stripe at the top of the gate was put on by her while riding on Li Jie's neck. Now she is the only one who dares to ride on Li Jie's head. Let's go set off firecrackers. Li Jie used a long bamboo pole to carry 1,000-ring red firecracker, and took Xiao Jiao and the other 7 to the door of the yard. Let Xiao Jiao and Shen Xinyi carry the bamboo poles, and he lit the big hanging whip. Crackling. The sound of firecrackers exploded one after another. Xiao Jiao and Shen Xinyi carried the bamboo pole nervously, while Zhou Ziu, Lu Kaiu and Wang Haining also covered their ears. In a villa not far next door, a middle-aged man in his 40s who was a bit fat, accompanied by a young woman in her mid-20s and a little boy of 3 or 4 years old, posted couplets at the entrance of the courtyard. Alarmed by the sound of firecrackers, they both looked towards Li Jie and the others. After noticing Xiao Jiao and the other 7 beautiful girls with their own characteristics, the middle-aged man's eyes widened a bit. When the young woman saw him, she was a little jealous and pinched him hard. Li Jie also glanced at the middle-aged man. He remembered that a family of 4 rented the villa for the new year last year, and they changed people again this year. There are not many residents in this villa area, most of them come to rent villas for vacation. After the cannon was fired, it was already past 8 o'clock. Li Jie, Xiao Jiao and the other 7 returned to the villa and sat down on the sofa together. For this year's reunion dinner, each of us will cook 1 or 2 special dishes. Li Jie paused, looked at Xiao Jiao, and said with a smile, Jiao Bao, how about you show off a little more? When Xiao Jiao heard this, he quickly shook his head, no, let's give this opportunity to her. As she said that, she looked at Zhou Ziu. She didn't want to do hard work anymore. Zhou Ziu glanced at Xiao Jiao, smiled casually and said, then I will cook more dishes. Xiao Jiao stood up and said, husband, if everything is okay, then go back to the room first. She didn't sleep well last night, got up very early in the morning, and was feeling a little sleepy now. Don't leave in a hurry. I'll take a video with you all. Li Jie stopped her. Take a video, Xiao Jiao's tone was filled with curiosity. I'll take a video for you both as a souvenir, Li Jie said and stood up. Xiao Jiao and the others are now in the best years of their youth, and he feels that this beauty should be recorded. Shen Xinyi asked, husband, aren't you going to shoot with us? I won't take pictures anymore. Li Jie took out a high-definition DV camera, set it up, and then asked Xiao Jiao and the others to line up in a line and walk in front of the camera one by one. Wait a moment. Xiao Jiao had just taken 2 steps when Li Jie suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Xiao Jiao asked confused. Li Jie turned to look at Ruanjing, Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi who were standing aside, and cast his eyes on Ruanjing. Xiao Jing, go change into a hanfu suit and take pictures with us. When Xiao Jiao and the others heard this, they all looked surprised and looked at Li Jie with strange eyes. Their eyes seemed to say, you didn't even let Ruanjing go. Li Jie was embarrassed by them, don't think nonsense, it's just a video. It's not that we don't think nonsense, it's you that don't think nonsense. Xiao Jiao's tone was meaningful. Ruanjing's face turned red and she didn't dare to look at Li Jie and the others. It was obvious that she was overthinking. Next to her, Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi also looked a little strange. Seeing this scene, Li Jie was really helpless. He really had no credibility in their hearts. The video was shot for more than half an hour. After the filming was completed, Li Jie asked Xiao Jiao and the others to disperse. At around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Li Jie, Xiao Jiao and the others prepared the reunion dinner together. 18 dishes were laid out on a large table, a dazzling array of dishes, and very rich. Li Jie, Xiao Jiao, 7, no, 8 of them were sitting around the table together. Xiao Jiao forced Ruanjing to come over. Li Jie glanced at Ruanjing, who was obviously uncomfortable, and shook his head inwardly. This Xiao Jiao really loves to fool around. How could he have any idea about Ruanjing? Xiao Jiao smiled and raised his glass. Hubby, let's have a drink together. Okay, Li Jie also raised his glass. Seeing him raising their glasses, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, Wang Haining, Bai Wei, Zhao Minjiao and Ruanjing also raised their glasses. Bang, all the wine glasses hit together. Li Jie took a sip of red wine and put down the glass. Looking at Xiao Jiao and the other 8 beautiful girls with their own characteristics, he couldn't help but have an idea in his mind. It would be great if I could celebrate New Year with them every year. The meal lasted for more than an hour, and when it was over, Xiao Jiao, Shen Xinyi, and Zhao Minjiao were all a little tipsy. Xiao Jiao was greedy and drank too much, while Shen Xinyi and Zhao Minjiao were too drunk. Let's go to the underground screening room to watch a movie. Li Jie stood up. Honey, why don't you go to the screening room and just watch it here, Xiao Jiao said lazily, leaning on the sofa with a pillow in his arms. She didn't want to move at all. The movie we want to watch cannot be shown here, Li Jie said with a smile. What movie? A very suitable movie to watch during the New Year. Husband, please hold me, I really don't want to move. Xiao Jiao opened her arms and said coquettishly to Li Jie. Okay, I'll hug you. Li Jie smiled and picked her up by the waist. Zhou Ziyu and Wang Haining looked at Xiao Jiao in his arms with envy. Xiao Jiao is jealous of Zhou Ziyu, Wang Haining, and even Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi, but she doesn't know that Zhou Ziyu and the others are even more jealous of her. They all could see that Li Jie was a little special to Xiao Jiao. Li Jie hugged Xiao Jiao and walked towards the basement with Zhou Ziyu and the others, only to find Shen Xinyi running towards the kitchen. My dear, why are you going? Shen Xian stopped and said, I'm going to get some snacks. We can eat snacks and watch a movie at the same time. This little snack. Li Jie couldn't help but shook his head inwardly. She was not afraid to hold on even if she wanted to eat snacks right after eating. Xiao Jiao said in Li Jie's arms, Xinyi, help me get some snacks too. Don't worry, everyone has it. Arriving at the underground screening room, Li Jie put Xiao Jiao on the front seat, then turned off the lights and turned on the projector. The big screen on the wall suddenly lit up, and the first picture that appeared was a movie trailer. Xiao Jiao said unexpectedly, why are there advertisements here? Zhou Ziyu said thoughtfully, husband, is this a copy of your new movie? At this time, Shen Xinyi arrived with a large box of snacks. Everyone can take whatever they want to eat. After a few commercials, Dragon label appeared on the big screen and the movie officially started screening. Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu also focused their attention on the big screen. At the beginning of the movie, Li Chenggong, who looks like a successful person, is venomously reprimanding 3 unsatisfactory employees at the dinner table. Xiao Jiao, Shen Xinyi, and Zhao Minjiao, who had relatively low laugh points, were all amused by Su Zheng's venomous and funny lines. Shen Xinyi was eating snacks and laughing at the same time. Husband, this movie is quite interesting. However, Zhou Ziyu, Wang Haining, Lu Kaiyu, and Bai Wei did not smile. Wang Haining took her eyes away from the big screen and looked at Li Jie, who was sitting aside. Brother Jie, is this People on the Road? Although she did not participate in the filming of Unfortunately, she had read the script and reacted immediately when she saw Li Chenggong, the young toy factory owner played by Su Zheng, and the milker Niu Gang played by Wang Baoqiang. When Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, and others heard this, they also looked at Li Jie. Are you on the wrong road? Husband, Isn't this movie not released yet? Didn't you say it was released on the first day of the new year? They were all surprised. Li Jie looked at Xiao Qiao and the others, smiled and said, "It will be released tomorrow, but I brought a copy over." What does it mean to book a movie theater? He directly brought a copy of the new movie that had not yet been released and watched it with Xiao Qiao and the others in advance. This is called unique romance. Okay, let's continue watching the movie. This movie is quite interesting and suitable for the new year. Xiao Qiao and the others turned their heads and continued watching the movie, but they felt a little strange in their hearts. What they were watching was a movie that hadn't been released yet. This was really the first time in their lives. At this time, the plot of the movie progressed to the scene where Li Changgong accompanied the mistress to catch dolls and go shopping. Xiao Qiao looked at the big screen and said disdainfully, "So this woman is a mistress." Upon hearing her words, the expressions of Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and Wang Zhaining all changed slightly. Strictly speaking, they are all mistresses. Li Jie glanced at Xiao Qiao. He had previously thought that she had grown up and would find helpers, win over her love rival, Wang Zhaining, and play tricks on the palace. Now it seems that he overestimated her. Her words about Sang and Huai offended Zhou Ziyu and the other four. Li Jie has watched the movie on the road, and has watched it more than once. But now I still find it interesting when I watch it again. This is the charm of a good movie. When flying in heavy fog, riding on a train and encountering a collapse in front of the road, riding in a car and encountering road repairs, the burdock's crow's mouth shows off its power one after another. Li Changgong's journey home is full of twists and turns and unlucky things. As the plot of the movie unfolds, Xiao Qiao and the others are attracted and burst into laughter from time to time. When it came to the scene where Li Changgong and Niu Gang stayed in a small hotel together, got up in the middle of the night and went to the wrong room, and were caught and raped by the sexy young woman and her man, Xiao Qiao laughed so hard that she fell into Li Jie's arms. "Husband, this movie is too funny." Not only was she laughing hard, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, Wang Zhaining, Zhao Minjiao and others were also laughing. Even Zhou Ziyu and Bai Wei were laughing. The two of them had a high point of laughter. When Xiao Qiao and the others burst into laughter, they only smiled lightly, but they couldn't help it when they saw this scene. Li Jie looked at the fierce and sexy young woman with a Chongqing accent on the big screen, and subconsciously looked at Shen Xinyi. He also has a girlfriend from Yuchen. My Yuchen girlfriend is very well behaved and gentle, not aggressive at all. Noticing Li Jie's gaze, Shen Xian smiled and scolded him, "Look at me." Her fierce look is not scary at all, but rather cute. Journey to Earth is a movie that is full of baggage and full of jokes. In terms of quality, it far surpasses in Thailand. Is forced to be funny in many places and falls short of the mark. Moreover, the burdock in The Road to Dilemma is very likable for his honesty and simplicity, while the Wang Bao Bao in is a bit annoying. The only shortcoming of the original version of Unfortunately is the scene with the female liar. If it's funny, and if it's sensational, it's sensational. Adding a bloody sensational scene to the comedy, and not connecting it well, will make the movie look a little fragmented. Li Jie directly deleted this scene, and expanded it into a funny scene where he met a mysterious netizen. He knows that whether it is a movie or a novel, the more popular it is, the wider its audience will be. So if you want to be funny to the end. If you are celebrating the Chinese New Year, don't be sensational and preachy. Just like. When the movie was over, Xiao Qiao and the others still looked like they were still a little unfinished. Zhou Ziyu glanced at Li Jie and said, "Hubby, I feel that this movie will definitely be good at the box office." Xiao Qiao also said, "Yes, I think so too." The two of them had a rare agreement. Let's look back first. It will take 2 or 3 days for the last chapter to be released. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 436. Shen Xian smiled and said, "This movie is too funny. I have never seen such an interesting movie." Lu Kaiyu, Wang Haining, and Zhao Minjiao also expressed their agreement. Li Jie looked at them and smiled, but said nothing. His expectation for the box office of unfortunately is more than 300 million. The blockbuster sales of several movies such as Crazy Lottery, Oldboy, and Adolescence have completely built up the reputation of Cuckoo Entertainment. With the support of theaters such as Wanda, plus the Spring Festival release, this goal is not difficult to achieve. It is even possible to exceed 500 million or 600 million. The quality of the movie is good enough, the schedule is right, and there are no strong competitors. It can be said that the journey has the right time, place, and people. At this time, there was no concept of Spring Festival stalls. We had to wait until Journey to the West, Conquer the Demons to win the annual box office championship in 2013 before the Spring Festival stalls became popular. In this year's schedule, there are only two movies that can compete with The Journey, Love in the City and Little Soldiers. But compared to these two movies, unfortunately is obviously more suitable to watch during the Spring Festival. During the Chinese New Year, people watch movies together with their families, just to have fun. Therefore, this version of Unfortunately may really create a box office miracle. It would be a dream to break the box office record of Avatar, but it is still very possible to break the box office record of domestic movies. After watching the movie, Zhou Ziyu, Bai Wei, and Zhao Minjiao all stood up and prepared to leave. Xiao Jiao said coquettishly, "Husband, how about we watch it again?" "Yeah, let's watch it again," Shen Xinyi said. Li Jie glanced at the two of them with a smile, "If you two like it, keep watching. Don't say it once, just a few times." "Husband, I won't watch any more," Zhou Ziyu said. Lu Kaiyu, Wang Haining, Bai Wei, and Zhao Minjiao also expressed their intention not to watch. "Sister Wei, don't leave, watch it again with me," Xiao Jiao took Bai Wei's hand. Li Jie looked at Zhao Minjiao as if he had thought of something. "Minjiao, are you still broadcasting today?" "Well, I want to play it for a while," Zhao Minjiao said softly. This girl is not ordinary diligent. However, being an anchor in this era can be said to be very happy, as there are not so many rules and regulations. Fans and big brothers are also relatively simple, and they sincerely support their favorite anchors and are willing to spend money. Just like that King Shandai spent millions on Sun Wanning and Chen Xian without even making a date for dinner. Such a second-rate guy, no, he was a good brother, and has almost disappeared in later generations. In fact, not to mention the anchors, celebrities in this era also let themselves go. They dare to say anything during interviews, programs, and Weibo posts. It was Yang Fengxian who said in Kuiben that domestic flowers are not as fragrant as wildflowers, and he got the nickname Yang Yehua. The movie started to show again, and Li Jie accompanied Xiao Jiao, Shen Xinyi, and Bai Wei to watch it again. Li Jie didn't want to watch it at first, but it was more interesting to watch the movie he liked back then. But it gets a little boring watching it again. But Xiao Jiao held him and refused to let him go. Xiao Jiao leaned in Li Jie's arms, while Shen Xinyi leaned on his shoulder. As for Bai Wei, she sat next to Xiao Jiao. Li Jie looked at the big screen boredly, took Xiao Jiao and Shen Xinyi's hands and began to play with their slender waists. Xiao Jiao's waist is so thin that it can be easily grasped, while Shen Xinyi's waist is somewhat fleshy. "Honey, don't move around, it's very itchy." Xiao Jiao stared at the big screen and pulled Li Jie's big hand aside. By coincidence, Li Jie's hand happened to touch Bai Wei's hand. When their hands touched, Bai Wei quickly moved her hand away as if she was electrocuted. However, her reaction piqued Li Jie's interest. He glanced at Xiao Jiao and Shen Xian, who were watching the big screen intently, and put his big hand on Bai Wei's leg. Bai Wei was stunned for a moment and looked at Li Jie with an extremely surprised look, as if she didn't believe that he would do this and be so bold. Taking advantage of her under the eyes of Xiao Qiao and Shen Xinyi, Li Jie gave her a puzzled look in return, as if the hand on her leg was not his. Seeing him pretending like this, Bai Wei couldn't help but feel a little angry. She reached out and grabbed Li Jie's big hand, trying to take his hand away from her leg. In the end, Li Jie took the opportunity to hold her hand. "Hurry up and let go," Bai Wei said anxiously, trying to pull her hand out while mouthing. But Li Jie held her hand tightly and refused to let go. Bai Wei was afraid of being discovered by Xiao Qiao, so she didn't dare to use too much force. Seeing Bai Wei looking anxious, angry, and ashamed, Li Jie found it very interesting and didn't want to let go. That's how men are, the more they can't get, the more they want it. Since his rebirth, Li Jie has been chasing girls with no success. Girls always take the initiative to stick to him, and he has never been serious about chasing anyone. That is to say, if you hit a wall in front of Bai Wei, you will inevitably have a desire to conquer. Besides, the feeling of teasing Xiao Qiao's best friend right under her nose is indeed quite exciting. This guy is really scumbag. Bai Wei struggled with Li Jie for a while, but they didn't take her hand away. She simply gave up and let him hold it like this. But Li Jie went one step further and started to play with her hand. Bai Wei's hands are very beautiful, her hands are slender and particularly white, and they feel good when playing with them. Li Jie could feel that Bai Wei was not really angry, otherwise he would have let go. After all, he was not the kind of scumbag who would force girls. Even if he was willing to put more thought into it, he might not be able to catch Bai Wei. But next year is a critical year for the development of Kudong Group. He must go all out and does not want to put too much energy on women. Li Jie knew very well that he could possess Xiao Qiao and the others by virtue of wealth and status. If Kudong Group really goes bankrupt, Xiao Qiao and the four of them may still hold on for a while, but his lovers will definitely run away as soon as possible. And if he really has nothing, no one will be able to keep him. "What are you two doing?" suddenly Xiao Qiao shouted, interrupting Li Jie's thoughts. She didn't know when she turned her head and looked at the hands of the two people holding each other in great surprise. Shen Xinyi on the side was also very surprised, looking back and forth on the faces of Li Jie and Bai Wei. Bai Wei's face turned red with embarrassment. She pulled her hand out of Li Jie's big hand with all her strength, and then stood up from her seat. "I won't watch any more, let's go now." After saying that, she hurried away as if running away. As soon as Bai Wei left, Xiao Qiao and Shen Xian's eyes all fell on Li Jie. Li Jie felt extremely uncomfortable with the similar looks from the two of them, and stood up from his seat. "You guys look at it, I don't look at it either." "Stop," seeing that Li Jie was about to run, Xiao Qiao quickly grabbed him. "You still said you have no idea about Sister Wei? You touched her in front of Xinyi and I. Tell me, do you find it particularly exciting?" Although Xiao Qiao wanted to push Bai Wei to Li Jie, when she saw this scene, she couldn't help but feel a little disgusted. "What's not irritating? This little Qiao always talks about the truth." Li Jie coughed lightly. "I'm also helping Bai Wei treat her illness. Cure a disease. You are just trying to take advantage of Sister Wei, you idiot. Xinyi, let's teach him a lesson together." With that said, Xiao Qiao pounced on Li Jie with all his teeth and claws. "Qiao Bao, what are you doing? Hey, dear, why did you follow her bad example?" Li Jie, Xiao Qiao and Shen Xinyi had a fuss for a while, and then returned to the room. Today is the Chinese New Year. He can't just accompany Xiao Qiao and the others, but also take care of the emotions of Lu Yufei, Luan Xiaolin, Su Yani, and Nini. At least we should video chat with them one by one for a while. As a result, his video started at around 5 p.m. and ended at around 9 p.m. After finally hanging up Lu Yufei's video, Li Jie let out a sigh of relief and finally got it all done. Nini is okay and relatively independent, but Suyani, Lu Enzilan, and Lu Yufei are more clingy and are unwilling to hang up the video. He had to use excuse after excuse to answer the phone. However, it was already 9 o'clock in the evening, and the Spring Festival Gala had started long ago. Why didn't anyone from Xiaoqiao and the others come over to call him? With this in mind, Li Jie closed his laptop, stood up and left the room. As soon as he got down to the second floor, he heard a burst of laughter, the voices of Xiaoqiao and the others. Li Jie followed the sound and came to Zhou Ziyu and Zhao Minjiao's room. When he opened the door, he found that Zhao Minjiao was sitting in front of the computer live broadcast. Xiaoqiao, Shen Xinyi, and Zhou Ziyu were sitting next to them. To be precise, Xiaoqiao and Shen Xinyi were live broadcasting with Zhao Minjiao, while Zhou Ziyu sat aside and watched, not in the frame. They all turned their heads when they heard the door open. Seeing that Li Jie was coming, Xiaoqiao couldn't help but smile on her face and opened her mouth to call her husband. Li Jie quickly made a gesture to silence her, and Zhou Ziyu also slapped her with his arm. "Zhou Fox, you are attacking me." Xiaoqiao was halfway through speaking before he realized that the live broadcast was happening now. Li Jie shook his head in his heart. This Xiaoqiao was always reckless. If Zhou Ziyu hadn't reacted quickly enough, Zhao Minjiao would have been in big trouble if her husband had really shouted out. Her innocent persona may be ruined. A mysterious man suddenly appeared behind the top female anchor during her live broadcast. This news is so exciting. Okay, that's it for today's live broadcast. I have to get off the air. Zhao Minjiao hung up the live broadcast. Then she stood up and said, "Mr. Li, you are here." Li Jie walked in, came to Xiaoqiao's side, reached out and rubbed her head. "Why are you always so reckless?" Xiaoqiao smiled at him sheepishly, then apologized to Zhao Minjiao and said, "Minjiao, I'm sorry. I almost got you into trouble just now." Zhao Minjiao smiled casually and said, "It's okay." Li Jie looked at them and asked with a smile, "Why did you remember to live broadcast together?" Upon hearing this, Xiaoqiao immediately said excitedly, "I saw that Xinyi and Minjiao's live broadcast together was quite interesting, so I followed them for a while." "Husband, did you know? There were 50,000 to 60,000 people watching our live broadcast just now." She was so excited mainly because so many people just praised her for her innocence, cuteness, and beauty. Li Jie smiled and hit her. "Those 50 or 60,000 people came to see Minjiao and Xinyi, and few of them came to see you." Zhao Minjiao and Shen Xinyi can be said to be the most popular anchors of Kudong Video. One has more than 10 million followers, and the other only has 8 to 9 million followers. After hearing what Li Jie said, Xiaoqiao suddenly became unhappy. Zhao Minjiao glanced at Zhou Ziyu and said softly, "The moment Sister Ziyu appeared on the scene, the number of people online was the highest." Xiaoqiao suddenly felt a little sour in her heart. Zhou Huixu is a well-known beauty writer, Shen Shiwo is a popular beauty anchor, and Lu Changji is the most powerful beautiful secretary of Kudong Group. She was the only one who was idle and had nothing to do. "Husband, I also want to be an anchor." Li Jie glanced at Xiaoqiao. Why did she think that she wanted to be the anchor again? "As an anchor, you'd better prepare for the postgraduate entrance examination with peace of mind." After a pause, he added, "When you graduate from graduate school, you will stay in school and become a beauty teacher." "Okay, let's go watch the Spring Festival Gala and make dumplings." Li Jie, Xiaoqiao and the others came to the living room downstairs and saw Lu Kaiu sitting alone on the sofa watching the Spring Festival Gala. "Where are Xiaoning and Bai Wei?" "Bai Wei should still be in the room, Wang's Haining." Before Lu Kaiu could finish speaking, he was interrupted. "Brother Jie." Li Jie, Xiaoqiao and the others turned to follow the sound and saw Wang's Haining walking over wearing a bright red corset skirt. Her waist-length hair was tied into a bun with a silver hairpin. The tassels of the hairpin hung down to her ears, and a small bell was added to the end of the tassels, which jingled when it swung. Wang Haining's appearance is already top-notch. Against the background of the red dress and the bright peonies at the corners, she is even more charming and gorgeous. Her pretty face spreads a bright smile, which instantly captivates the country and the city. Li Jie looked at her and couldn't help but pause for a moment. Have you changed your clothes? Well, how about it? Does this dress look good? As Wang Haining spoke, she spun around in front of Li Jie, her clothes fluttering and her bells jingling, like a gorgeous butterfly. Xiaoqiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi looked at each other, as if they had reached an agreement, and they must not let this little goblin in. Zhou Ziyu became more vigilant and focused on Wang Haining. Xiaoqiao also had no intention of winning over the other party. Li Jie looked away from Wang Haining and said to Xiaoqiao and the others, Xiao Yu, Xinyi, you go and get the dumpling wrappers, dumpling fillings, and dumpling making tools. Qiao Bao, go and call Bai Wei down, and we can all make dumplings together. Xiaoqiao smiled and said, Husband, you should go and call Sister Wei. Xinyi and I will go get the things together. After saying that, she ran away. Li Jie looked at her back, shook his head in amusement, then turned and went upstairs to call Bai Wei. However, as soon as he reached the second floor, he saw Bai Wei walking downstairs. When she saw Li Jie, she looked as normal, as if what happened in the screening room had never happened. Are you going to make dumplings? Yeah, Li Jie nodded. Then let's go down. After saying that, she walked downstairs first. Bai Wei, Li Jie called her. I'm sorry. I was rude before. I shouldn't have done that. I promise I won't do it again in the future. After hearing this, Bai Wei just looked at him deeply, said nothing, turned around and went downstairs. Li Jie looked at her back and smiled, something meaningful. The dumpling wrappers and dumpling fillings are prepared in advance when making the reunion dinner in the afternoon. Not much, probably enough to make 50 or 60 dumplings. On average, Li Jie and Xiaoqiao had a small bowl each. Xiaoqiao and the others were not hungry, so they just followed the custom of eating dumplings. The guide to Bai Wei may seem a bit abrupt, but chapter 433 is actually a bit foreshadowing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 437. While making dumplings with them, Li Jie said, I put a coin in the dumpling. Who can eat the coin tonight? Before she could finish speaking, Xiaoqiao said first, whose wish will you grant? Li Jie glanced at her and said with a smile, no, I will sleep with whoever it is. This guy really dares to say that he doesn't even care that Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao are also there. Xiaoqiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and Wang Haining looked at each other, then at Zhao Minjiao and Bai Wei, all with strange expressions. Zhao Minjiao's face turned red and she lowered her head, not daring to look at Xiaoqiao and the others. Bai Wei's expression remained unchanged. Bedtime attendant, Xiaoqiao's tone was filled with dissatisfaction. You still think of yourself as... She did not continue, and turned to look at Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao. What if Sister Wei and Minjiao get the coins, will you also let them sleep with you? Li Jie also glanced at Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao, not counting Bai Wei and Minjiao, there are only 5 of you. Xiaoqiao snorted softly, don't count me in, I won't give it to you. Li Jie smiled and said, it doesn't matter if you don't want to, as long as someone is willing. Upon hearing this, Xiaoqiao bit her lip and looked at Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and Wang Haining. However, they all remained silent, and only Shen Xian stood up. And me, don't count me in either. Good boy, you're not good now. Be good. You are good if you allow yourself to be ridiculous, right? Xinyi, Let's sleep together tonight and let this scumbag stay alone in the empty room. Staying alone in an empty room? If that's true, that would be great. A certain scumbag was secretly happy. 50 or 60 dumplings were made quickly by 7 or 8 people working together. Instead of taking it to the kitchen to cook, Li Jie took the induction cooker and cooked dumplings on the coffee table in the living room. By the time the dumplings were cooked, it was almost 11 p.m. Li Jie, Xiaoqiao and the others were eating dumplings and watching TV. At this time, Zhao Laojian's sketch donation happened to be performed. This skit is not interesting. Li Jie looked away from the TV and turned around to see Zhao Minjiao picking up a dumpling from the bowl and secretly putting it into Zhou Ziu's bowl. Minjiao, what are you doing? Lu Kaiyu also saw this scene. After hearing Lu Kaiyu's words, Xiaoqiao, Shen Xinyi, and Wang Zhaining turned their heads to look at Zhao Minjiao. Zhao Minjiao said with a guilty conscience, I can't eat such dumplings, so I'll give 2 to Sister Ziu. Can't eat? There were only 6 or 7 small dumplings in total. How could she not be able to eat them? Xiaoqiao and the others didn't believe Zhao Minjiao's statement at all. Xiaoqiao stared at her and said, Minjiao, did you get the coin? Zhao Minjiao shook her head quickly, no. However, her guilty look showed that she was telling lies. Zhou Ziu put the dumpling back into Zhao Minjiao's bowl. Minjiao, it's okay if you eat the coins. Mr. Li can't force you. After a pause, she said teasingly, of course, if you are willing, let's talk about it differently. When Zhao Minjiao heard this, his face turned red. Sister Ziu, what are you talking about? Li Jie helped Zhao Minjiao out with a smile and said, okay, Xiao, stop teasing Minjiao. Zhao Minjiao glanced at him and quickly looked away. Xiaoqiao looked at Zhao Minjiao's shy look and muttered something in a low voice. Qiao Bao, what are you talking about? Li Jie didn't hear clearly. However, Bai Wei, who was closest to Xiaoqiao, heard clearly. What she said was that with her face so red, she must be thinking about men. The time is approaching 12 o'clock, the new year is coming, and intermittent firecrackers are heard outside the villa. This is a suburb and there are relatively few residents, so the sound of firecrackers is not intensive. Li Jie stood up and said, let's go set off fireworks too. Okay, Xiaoqiao and the others also stood up. Carrying a large box of fireworks to the yard, Li Jie, Xiaoqiao and the others set off fireworks. Bang, bang bang. Phew. With the fireworks blooming and the laughter of Xiaoqiao and the others, time passed midnight. Li Jie glanced at the pretty faces of Xiaoqiao, Zhou Ziu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, Wang Zhaining, Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao one by one. With them by his side, his life would be worth it. This guy has completely forgotten that Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao have nothing to do with him now. At this time, Xiaoqiao and Zhou Ziu looked at each other and said, honey, Happy New Year. 2. Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi and Wang Zhaining also said, husband, Happy New Year. 2. Brother Jie, Happy New Year. 1. Li Jie smiled and said to them, Xiaoqiao, Xiaoyu, Xiaoyu, Guai Guai, Xiaoning, Happy New Year. After saying that, he turned to Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao and said, Bai Wei, Minjiao, Happy New Year. Zhao Minjiao glanced at Li Jie shyly, boss, Happy New Year. Bai Wei said generously, Happy New Year. After setting off the fireworks, Li Jie, Xiaoqiao and the others returned to the living room and sat down. Xiaoqiao yawned and said, hubby, what should we do next? Li Jie thought for a while and said, how about we go to the screening room to watch a movie? Don't stay up late this year. When you feel sleepy, go and rest. Shen Xinyi said, stop watching the movie, how about we play a game together? Xiaoqiao thought of something, looked at Li Jie with a smile, and then said, let's play truth or dare. Okay, let's play truth or dare. Zhou Ziu, Shen Xinyi and Wang Zhaining all agreed. Li Jie got a headache when he heard about the game. How about watching a movie? No, just play games, Xiao Jiao and the others said in unison. Li Jie sighed softly in his heart. They were going to work together to punish him. Xiao Jiao got up and got a deck of cards, pulled out 8 cards, and said, "One of these 8 cards is a big ghost. Whoever draws the big ghost must choose to tell the truth or perform a show. However, if the performance cannot be recognized by the majority of people, you have to answer the truth." After saying that, she started cutting the cards and shuffling the order of the 8 cards. Li Jie looked at her and couldn't help but said, "Jiao Bao, you just cheated in front of me, is this really okay?" On the surface, Xiao Jiao is cutting the cards, but the positions of the top 2 cards have not changed. Xiao Jiao smiled and said, "Where did I cheat? Don't talk nonsense." As she spoke, she put the shuffled cards on the coffee table. "You smoke first." Li Jie shook his head helplessly and picked up the first card. As expected, it was Zhang Digi. He flipped the cards over and placed them on the coffee table. When Xiao Jiao and the others saw it, they all laughed. "Husband, you are really unlucky," Xiao Jiao still had to be nice and said. However, just as she was speaking, Zhou Ziyu picked up the second card first. "Hey, this is my card," Xiao Jiao stopped immediately. "Didn't you cheat? It doesn't matter who gets it first." Zhou Ziyu said, turning over the card. It was AK. "It seems I'm lucky," she said with a smile on her face. "K points are the largest." Xiao Jiao stared at Zhou Ziyu, his eyes almost burning. "The fox is so hateful this week." Zhou Ziyu looked at Li Jie and asked with a smile, "Hubby, do you choose to tell the truth or perform a show?" "Truthfully," Li Jie said without hesitation. "His little lover is so considerate, she shouldn't embarrass him, right?" Zhou Ziyu glanced at Xiao Jiao and the others first, and then asked, "Husband, among the few of us, who do you feel most comfortable with?" Upon hearing this question, Xiao Jiao, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, Wang Haining, and others all stared at Li Jie. Bai Wei and Zhao Minjiao also laid their eyes on him. Li Jie couldn't help but have a headache. Why do they always compare? Isn't this making things difficult for him? Besides, why does he feel that this little fish is driving? It all feels good. "Don't get away with it," Xiao Jiao and the others said in unison. "Okay, then I won't get away with it." Li Jie looked at them and said a little playfully. Regardless of whether Zhou Ziyu is driving or not, he is preparing to drive anyway. Xiao Jiao and the others want to tease him. It's not clear who is teasing whom. Next, Li Jie commented on the performance of Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and Wang Haining one by one, and focused on praising Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu. After hearing what he said, Xiao Jiao and the others felt embarrassed, and Zhao Minjiao blushed so much that she could almost bleed. Bai Wei's face also turned red. This Li Jie was too ridiculous to say such private words in front of her and Zhao Minjiao. Xiao Jiao blushed and said nonchalantly, "What nonsense are you talking about? I didn't take the initiative, and I didn't scream, that stuff." Zhou Ziyu was also a little embarrassed. She didn't expect that she would get burned. Li Jie glanced at Xiao Jiao with a smile, "Then who knocked me down last time?" "You still say that?" Xiao Jiao was anxious and quickly stepped forward to cover his mouth. Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and Wang Haining couldn't help but laugh. Li Jie pushed Xiao Jiao's hand away, looked at the 3 of them and said, "Xiao Yu, Guai Guai, and Xiaoning, don't laugh. You all have areas worthy of praise. When it comes to taking the initiative, Shen Guai is not bad either. It is said that the more well-behaved a girl looks on the outside, the more rebellious she is on the inside. There is some truth to this, at least for Xiao Jiao and Shen Xinyi." When Lu Kaiyu and the other 3 heard this, they didn't dare to laugh. If Li Jie really praises his private words in public, they will become the butt of laughter. They finally knew why Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu were so favored. It turned out to be because of their extraordinary abilities. Wang Haining seemed to have understood something, thoughtfully. Shen Xian changed the subject and said, "Let's continue playing." As she spoke, she gathered the 8 cards together. Bai Wei stood up and said, "I won't play anymore, you can play." Zhao Minjiao also quickly stood up, "I won't play anymore." "Wait a minute," Li Jie stopped them both. "The game has already begun. If you don't play now, you are running away from the battle and you will be punished." Bai Wei turned to look at Li Jie. "How to punish me?" "3 times the punishment, answer the truth 3 times," Li Jie said. When Bai Wei heard this, she simply sat down again. Zhao Minjiao looked around and sat down too. Shen Xinyi did not cheat like Xiao Jiao, but simply cut the cards a few times. Li Jie and Xiao Jiao each took a card. After turning it over, they found that Wang Haining was the one who drew the big ghost, and Lu Kaiu was the one who drew the maximum K. Lu Kaiu looked at Wang Haining and asked, "Haining, do you choose to tell the truth or perform a show?" "The show." Wang Haining stood up with a smile and came to the open space in the middle of the living room. "Let me dance a classical dance for everyone." After saying that, she started dancing. The movements are simple and the rhythm is slow, but the red clothes are fluttering and the dancing posture is very graceful. It can be seen that Wang Haining must have certain dancing skills, especially when she slowly moves her wide sleeves away and reveals her pretty face with a bright smile. She is even more charming and charming. "Not bad," Lu Kaiu commented softly. However, as soon as she finished speaking, Wang Haining suddenly performed a difficult back kick, as graceful as a giant. Then the dance rhythm began to speed up, some dancing with sleeves, some turning skirts, some vigorous and powerful, some graceful and agile, with flowing clothes. Lu Kaiu's expression became extremely solemn, and Xiao Jiao, Shen Xinyi, and Zhao Minjiao were all stunned and shocked. Zhou Ziu looked away from Wang Haining and turned to look at Li Jie. Seeing him staring at Wang Haining intently, she couldn't help but feel a thump in her heart. If it were placed in ancient times, this Wang Haining would be a beauty who charmed the king. Zhou Ziu said that Wang Haining was a disaster because of beauty, but he didn't expect her to be a disaster in ancient times. At this time, Zhou Ziu's eyes met the eyes of a person, Bai Wei. After doing a few more difficult moves like splits, back kicks, and high kicks, Wang Haining quickly spun in a circle, and her sleeves rotated with her movements, like a dancing butterfly. After spinning for a minute or two, Wang Haining suddenly stopped, performed another difficult backwards move, and then bowed to end the dance. Pa bang bang. Xiao Jiao, Shen Xinyi, and Zhao Minjiao were stunned for a few seconds before they came back to their senses and clapped enthusiastically. Lu Kaiu, Zhou Ziu, and Bai Wei followed closely and also clapped. "Haining, you dance so well," Xiao Jiao said excitedly and enviously. "Her hands and feet are uncoordinated and she cannot dance well, so she is particularly envious of girls like Lu Kaiu and Wang Haining who are particularly good at dancing." Li Jie also came to his senses, looked at Wang Haining and said with a smile, "Xiaoning, have you ever learned dancing?" The dance she just performed cannot be performed without years of dancing skills. Wang Haining smiled and nodded, "Well, I've been learning classical dance since I was a child and have been practicing for almost 10 years. If I hadn't suffered a serious injury in high school and couldn't practice dancing for a long time, I would have entered the dance academy." After a pause, she added, "I haven't practiced dancing for a long time, and my dancing is not as good as before." Her words may seem modest, but they are actually very Versailles-like. Lu Kaiu looked at Wang Haining with a hint of dissatisfaction in her eyes. She had also practiced dancing since she was a child and didn't think the comparison was bad. In the third round, Lu Kaiu drew the big ghost, and Bai Wei drew the maximum point K. Bai Wei looked at Lu Kaiu and asked, "Kaiu, do you choose to tell the truth or perform a show?" "Performance." Lu Kaiu stood up. "I'll do a dance too." After saying that, she came to the open space in the middle of the living room and danced a classical dance. When Lu Kaiyu finished dancing, Li Jie and Xiao Jiao also clapped. But the applause was not as enthusiastic as before. Chapter 433 is released. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 438. Lu Kaiyu's dancing level is no worse than Wang's Haining's, but she is not good at it and is not suitable for classical dance, so her dance is far less charming than Wang's Haining's. What she is best at now is free dancing. When her long legs are exposed, she dances very beautifully and is very charming. It can be said that she was dragged down by the hanfu she was wearing, and she could only use her own shortcomings to benefit others. Lu Kaiyu glanced at Wang's Haining, not willing to lose at all. If she had the chance, she would definitely compete with him in modern dance again. In the fourth round, Zhou Ziyu drew the big ghost, and Xiao Jiao drew the maximum point K. I won. Xiao Jiao looked at Zhou Ziyu triumphantly, as if to say that you have finally fallen into my hands. Zhou Fox, do you choose to tell the truth or perform a show? Zhou Ziyu still had a slight smile on her face. I tell you the truth. Seeing her expression, Xiao Jiao became angry. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something, and a sly expression appeared on her face. If he had no money, would you still be with him? With that said, Xiao Jiao glanced at Li Jie. After hearing this, Zhou Ziyu also glanced at Li Jie, and then said seriously, yes. Xiao Jiao almost jumped up when he heard this, and suddenly raised his voice, you are telling lies. You have admitted it yourself that you are interested in his money. Zhou Ziyu looked calm. That was what I thought before. If I choose again now, I will be with him even if he has no money. After a pause, she continued, Xiao Jiao, don't always say that I am after money. What about you? If Li Jie was not so rich, would you allow him to hug him? I'm afraid you would have broken up with him long ago. The general failed and was defeated. Xiao Jiao suddenly became angry. You, a gold digger, have the nerve to slander me. Seeing them arguing again, Li Jie couldn't help but feel a headache. Okay, you two, stop arguing. It doesn't matter whether you want money or not. I already have money. Just like you are all beautiful, am I just coveting your beauty when I am with you? That's right, Xiao Jiao, Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi said in unison with a smile. You are just a jerk, Xiao Jiao said again with a smile. Zhou Ziyu shook her head lightly. No, husband, you are still very emotional, otherwise. She didn't continue talking, just glanced at Xiao Jiao. Zhou Fox, what do you mean? You mean I'm not pretty enough, right? Xiao Jiao was furious and was about to pounce on Zhou Ziyu. Bai Wei beside her quickly grabbed her. Xiao Jiao, today is the Chinese New Year. After hearing what Bai Wei said, Xiao Jiao finally restrained herself. She stared at Zhou Ziyu and said, whether you tell the truth or not is not your decision. It depends on whether we all believe you or not. As she spoke, she looked at Li Jie, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, Wang Haining, Bai Wei, and Zhao Minjiao. We voted with a show of hands, and those who thought she was telling the truth raised their hands. Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and Wang Haining looked at each other, and only Zhao Minjiao raised her hand. Xiao Jiao immediately laughed. 6-1, it seems that no one believes it. Suddenly, her smile froze, and it turned out that Li Jie also raised his hand. Xiao Jiao said dissatisfiedly, husband, don't you feel guilty for being so partial to her? Li Jisan smiled, feeling very helpless. He didn't really believe Zhou Ziyu's words, and he knew that Xiao Jiao would be dissatisfied if he raised his hand, but he had to raise his hand. Zhou Ziyu looked at Li Jie with affection in her eyes. She didn't care what others thought, as long as Li Jie supported her. Noticing Zhou Ziyu's eyes, Xiao Jiao felt even more unhappy and snorted coldly. It's useless for him to support you. You still lose 5-2. If you tell lies, you will be punished. How to punish? Zhou Ziyu looked away from Li Jie. Xiao Jiao thought for a moment and said, "Tell me 3 times that I am a shameless vixen." "I am a shameless vixen." 3. After saying that, Zhou Ziyu smiled and said to Xiao Jiao, "Is that okay?" "That's enough." Xiao Jiao regretted a little, feeling that the punishment was too light. In the 4th round, Li Jie once again drew the big ghost, and Wang Zhaining drew the maximum K. "Brother Jie, do you choose to tell the truth or perform a show?" "Truthfully." Wang Zhaining thought for a while and asked, "Brother Jie, who is the first person here to make your heart beat?" Li Jie hesitated for a moment, then looked at Xiao Jiao with a smile. "Of course it's Xiao Jiao, I know her the earliest." When Xiao Jiao heard this, he couldn't hide the joy on his face. Zhou Ziyu smiled and said, "Just because we met him first doesn't mean he was the first to fall in love. Husband, you will be punished for telling lies." Xiao Jiao turned to look at Zhou Ziyu angrily. "Zhou Fox, what are you talking about? This week, Fox is sincerely having trouble with her, right?" Zhou Ziyu glanced at her and said nothing, but turned to look at Shen Xinyi. "Honey, if I'm not wrong, the first person who made your heart flutter should be Xinyi, right?" After hearing her words, Xiao Jiao, Lu Kaiyu, Wang Zhaining, Bai Wei, and Zhao Minjiao all looked at Shen Xian. Facing everyone's gaze, Shen Xinyi's expression was a little unnatural, and he subconsciously looked at Li Jie. Zhou Ziyu looked at Shen Xinyi and continued, "Xiao Jiao, you are really lucky. If Xinyi had taken the initiative earlier, nothing would have happened to you." Xiao Jiao looked away from Shen Xinyi, stared at Li Jie and asked, "Husband, is what she said true?" Li Jie sighed softly in his heart, "Jiao Bao, it doesn't matter, you just need to know that you are the first to be with me." When Xiao Jiao heard this, he immediately understood that what Zhou Ziyu said was true. She bit her lip, feeling very uncomfortable. Bai Wei suddenly put her arms around Xiao Jiao. "He's right, it's not important, it's just a heartbeat. He didn't choose you in the end." After saying that, she looked at Zhou Ziyu with a smile. "This is not luck, but fate." "Yes, this is fate." The smile returned to Xiao Jiao's face. "Okay, let's play one last hand, and then everyone goes to rest," Li Jie said, gathering the cards on the coffee table. He felt tired. They had so much fun playing a game. In the last round, Bai Wei drew the big ghost, and Zhou Ziyu drew the highest point K. "Bai Wei, do you choose to tell the truth or perform a show?" "Truthfully." Zhou Ziyu glanced at Li Jie first, and then asked with a smile, "Do you like him at all?" Bai Wei was silent for a moment and nodded lightly, "A little." Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, Wang Zhaining, and Zhao Minjiao all looked at her in surprise, even Xiao Jiao. None of them expected Bai Wei to be so calm. And Li Jie was also stunned. Zhou Ziyu stared at Bai Wei closely, and the smile that had been maintained on his face gradually disappeared. At this time, Shen Xinyi suddenly chuckled. When she smiled, everyone looked at her. "I just thought of something interesting," Shen Xian explained with a smile. "They are really good friends who help each other." Li Jie and Xiao Jiao stayed in Sanya until the 3rd day of the Lunar New Year. On the morning of the 3rd day of junior high school, Li Jie sent Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Shen Xinyi, Wang Zhaining, Bai Wei, and Zhao Minjiao to the airport, and watched them walk into the security check channel surrounded by bodyguards. Then he also got on the plane to Tanzhou with Lu Kaiyu. This time, Li Jie did not choose first class, but sat in business class with Lu Kaiyu. After the plane took off, Lu Kaiyu glanced at him and suddenly said, "I hope we won't encounter heavy fog." Li Jie was stunned for a moment, then realized that what she was talking about was the scene in People on the Road where Li Changgong and Niu Geng went to Tanzhou together and encountered heavy fog while flying. "Then I took the train instead, but the road ahead collapsed," he also said with a smile. About half an hour later, Li Jie was chatting with Lu Kaiyu when he heard the radio saying, "Dear passengers, I just got the news that due to heavy fog at Tanzhou Airport, the airport is closed and the plane cannot land. Now the plane is preparing to return. Please give me your seat understanding. Li Jie and Lu Kaiyu looked at each other and couldn't help but say, what a coincidence. Lu Kaiyu shook his head lightly, it's not a coincidence. Tanzhou is like this. The smog becomes more serious in winter. Half an hour later, the plane returned to Sanya Airport. After exiting the security checkpoint, Li Jie and his group of passengers were told by the staff that the plane could not fly until the fog cleared. It was uncertain when the fog would clear. They can choose to wait and the airline will arrange a hotel, or they can choose to change or refund the ticket. Li Jie turned to look at Lu Kaiyu. Xiaoyu, how about we wait, or change the ticket to tomorrow? Lu Kaiyu thought for a while and said, husband, shall we take the train instead? Take the train. Li Jie was a little surprised, taking the train is very slow. It takes almost 1 day and 1 night from Sanya to Tanzhou. We might as well wait for the plane. This foggy weather should not last long. Lu Kaiyu smiled and said, it's okay, just slow down. After a pause, she added, I haven't sat on a train with you yet. Okay, then it's up to you. After hearing what she said, Li Jie no longer objected. The two left the airport and took a taxi to the train station. When he arrived at the train station, Li Jie went to the ticket office and bought 2 hard sleeper tickets. During the Chinese New Year, not many people take the train, so tickets are easy to buy. After getting the ticket, Li Jie couldn't help but shake his head when he looked at the departure time. The train departed at 4:14 p.m., but it was only after 12 noon, which meant that he and Lu Kaiyu had to wait for more than 3 hours. It was better to wait for the plane. Li Jie collected the train tickets and said to Lu Kaiyu, let's go into the station. After passing the security check and entering the train station, Li Jie saw a KFC inside the station and wanted to take Lu Kaiyu in to have something to eat. Lu Kaiyu took his arm and said, I don't want to eat KFC. Then what do you want to eat? Li Jie looked around and found that there was only a KFC in the station and another noodle shop was not open yet. Lu Kaiyu pointed to the box lunch stall not far away and said, let's just eat box lunch. Okay, then I'll eat the box lunch. Li Jie went to buy 2 box lunches, and then bought some fruits and drinks. When they arrived at the waiting room, they found 2 seats and sat down, and the 2 of them started eating their lunch boxes. This lunch box doesn't taste very good. Thinking this, Li Jie glanced at Lu Kaiyu, only to find that she was looking at her with a smile. Why are you watching me if you don't eat? Lu Kaiyu smiled and said, husband, do you still remember? During the winter vacation of my freshman year, you sent me to the train station and bought me a box lunch. Li Jie was stunned for a moment and said, I remember giving it to you, but have I ever bought you a lunch box? The smile on Lu Kaiyu's face suddenly disappeared. Have you forgotten? Li Jie suddenly laughed. I'm teasing you, of course I remember. I still remember you picking the fat meat into my lunch box. Isn't that why you suddenly want to eat a box lunch? Lu Kaiyu had a sweet smile on her face and hummed lightly. Then she picked up a piece of fat and put it in Li Jie's lunch box. This is for you to eat. You are so clever, Li Jie shook his head in amusement. Hearing these familiar words, Lu Kaiyu couldn't help but laugh. After her smile subsided, she said softly, husband, do you know? At that time, I really wanted you to get in the car and give me a ride. Now you can finally come home with me. Li Jie looked at her and couldn't help feeling a little emotional. Lu Kaiyu is actually a very outstanding and lovable girl. She has a good figure, is beautiful, has an outgoing personality, is lively and cheerful, and is good at socializing and being popular. Such an outstanding girl acted so humble in front of him. After finishing the lunch, Lu Kaiyu leaned into Li Jie's arms and stretched out her long legs. She especially enjoyed this opportunity for the two of them to be alone together. Passengers passing by nearby would occasionally cast their eyes on Lu Kaiyu. In reality, except for some colleges and universities where girls gather together, it is extremely rare to meet young and beautiful girls like Lu Kaiyu. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Li Jie woke up Lu Kaiyu, who had fallen asleep in his arms, and the two lined up to check in and board the train to Tanzhou. After 23 hours of train ride, Li Jie and Lu Kaiyu finally arrived in Tanzhou at 3 p.m. on the second day, the fourth day of the Lunar New Year. Seeing the train arriving at the station, Lu Kaiyu couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. It's finally here. A one-day and one-night train trip, even in a sleeper berth, was not comfortable, not to mention that she had never taken a train for such a long time before. Li Jie smiled at her and said, "Why, do you regret taking the train?" Lu Kaiyu smiled and said stubbornly, "No, it's good to experience it once in a while." "Okay, then I'll take you to experience the hard seat next time." "Hard seats? Forget it, let's just make airplanes from now on." It is easy to go from frugality to luxury, but it is difficult to go from luxury to frugality. Lu Kaiyu and the others are accustomed to living a life of enjoyment like Li Jie. If they are allowed to live a hard life again, it will definitely be difficult for them to adapt. After getting off the train and leaving the train station, Li Jie said to Lu Kaiyu, "Let's go buy something first." "What do uncles and aunts like?" Lu Kaiyu said, "They don't have anything they particularly like, so we can just buy something casually." "Okay, then I'll listen to you." Li Jie wasn't worried at all that his father-in-law would make things difficult for him when he came to visit him. Who wouldn't like a difficult son-in-law like him? Besides, he has met several parents-in-law and mothers-in-law, so he has already gained rich experience. The two first went to the city to buy 2 strips of zonghua, 2 bottles of maotai, as well as some supplements and fruits as home gifts, and then Li Jie and Lu Kaiyu went home together. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 439. Lu Kaiyu's home is not in the urban area, but in Tanzhou County under the jurisdiction of Tanzhou. Liu's mother works in a vocational college and is an employee if she doesn't teach. Liu's father works in an ordinary public institution and is a small leader. He supervises 5 or 6 people. He is just a marginal department and does not have much power. Generally speaking, the Lu family's family background is considered average to above average. Father Lu and Mother Lu have known for a long time that Lu Kaiyu is in love. Father Lu and Mother Lu are relatively open-minded and encourage their daughter to fall in love in college, but they just don't want their daughter to have a relationship with a man too early. "My daughter said that the boy was her classmate and he was very good. He started a business soon after entering college." Father Lu and Mother Lu were quite satisfied, especially after seeing the boy's photo. The boy looks very decent, and seems to be more down-to-earth and reliable, not the philandering type. However, during the Chinese New Year last year, Father Lu and Mother Lu had a lot of objections to their daughter's boyfriend. The daughter first called to say that the boy's company was doing well and that he would not be back during the winter vacation and would continue to intern at the other company. Father Lu and Mother Lu are extremely supportive of their daughter participating in an internship early in the morning. They both understand that just studying in school is not enough. Only by participating in more social experiences can a person grow faster. It is better to intern in your boyfriend's company. On the one hand, you will be taken care of, and on the other hand, it will also help the two of you develop a relationship. But when the Chinese New Year was approaching, her daughter called again and said that she would not be back for the Chinese New Year and would celebrate the Chinese New Year with her boyfriend. This made Liu's father and Liu's mother very dissatisfied. "We have only been together for more than half a year, and they are celebrating the New Year at the husband's house. This progress is too fast. What's more, they are going to live in the boy's house. The two must have had a relationship." She complained that her daughter was disobedient and not reserved enough, and she also complained that the boys were ignorant. So after their daughter came back after the Chinese New Year, Father Lu and Mother Lu interrogated her carefully. But they learned something from their daughter that shocked them. In just over a year, their daughter's boyfriend's small company had grown into a medium to large entertainment group with 3 or 4 companies worth hundreds of millions. The threshold for billionaires in this era is extremely high. They belong to the level of extremely rich people, and each of them plays an important role. Unlike later generations, if you have a few houses in first-tier cities, you will be a billionaire. Father Lu and Mother Lu never expected that their daughter would find a self-made billionaire as her boyfriend, and this billionaire was also her daughter's classmate. It sounded so unreal, and they even suspected that their daughter had met a liar. But I heard my daughter tell it in detail. She had been an intern at her husband's company since the first semester of her freshman year, and watched him gradually develop a small company with only 20 or 30 people into a large company with hundreds of employees. They finally confirmed that the man was not a liar, but the daughter was so lucky that she met a business genius in an ordinary second-tier college. This makes them feel happy and worried. It is a good thing that their daughter has found a boyfriend with good conditions, but it may not be a good thing if the conditions are too good. Therefore, Father Lu and Mother Lu urged their daughter to quickly bring the boy named Li Jie over so that they could meet her so that they could check things for their daughter. If the other party really has a problem, no matter how rich they are, they will not agree. But her daughter kept putting it off, and she hasn't seen her bring her boyfriend back for a year. Just say that the other party's company is busy with business. This made Father Lu and Mother Lu even more dissatisfied. The other party's company is still in the development stage, and they can understand that things are busy, but it's been a year, and you can't spare the time to see them, right? No matter how rich you are, you can't ignore them so little, right? So after their daughter called to say that she would not come back for the Chinese New Year this year, Father Lu and Mother Lu were dissatisfied to the extreme and decided to call their daughter back no matter what. But their daughter revealed another piece of news that shocked them to the extreme. The boy actually made it onto the rich list, and he was the youngest person on the list this year, with a net worth of 3.6 billion. Tanzhou County, a nice community. Sitting on the sofa in the living room, Mother Lu would look up at the clock on the wall from time to time. Lao Lu, it's almost time. Xiaoyu and the others should be arriving soon. How about we pick them up? When Liu's father heard this, he frowned and said, "What should I pick up? No matter how rich Li Jie is, he is still a junior. How can an elder pick up a junior? No matter how rich he is, if he doesn't satisfy me, don't think I will agree to him being with Xiaoyu." Mother Lu thought of something and said with some sigh, "In the past, I just wanted Xiaoyu to find a suitable partner. Even if the conditions are not good, it doesn't matter. We can help subsidize it a little." Unexpectedly, she found a super rich man. Father Lu glanced at his wife and said in a deep voice, "It's not a good thing to be too rich." He works in a public institution affiliated with the County Commerce Bureau. He has not seen many truly wealthy people, but he has often had contact with wealthy people and small company owners. And as long as there are men with some money and status, there are not many men who don't take care of themselves. Yes, Mother Lu nodded in agreement. Fortunately, Xiaoyu and the other party are classmates, and they can help each other and support each other in their careers. If the daughter is completely dependent on the other party, Father Lu and Mother Lu will be very worried, but it is much safer if the daughter can complement each other in career. Anyone with experience knows that relationships are unreliable, but on the contrary, career and financial connections are more solid. Just then, the doorbell rang with a ding-dong sound. Mother Lu stood up quickly. It should be Xiaoyu and the others who have arrived. She walked over, opened the door and took a look, and found that it was Lu Kaiu who was back. "After not seeing each other for several months, my daughter has become more beautiful and more temperamental. The boy behind her should be Li Jie. He is more mature and calm than in the photo." It is no wonder that he can achieve such a big career at such a young age. When Liu's mother was looking at Li Jie was also looking at her. It can be seen that Mother Lu must have been very beautiful when she was young. Even though she is almost 50 years old now, she still has charm and good temperament. Lu Kaiu introduced with a smile, "Mom, this is my boyfriend Li Jie." Li Jie quickly said respectfully, "Hello, Aunt, I am Xiaoyu's boyfriend Li Jie." "Xiao Jie, come in quickly," Mother Lu said enthusiastically. Her first impression of Li Jie was very good. Entering the house, Li Jie said hello to Liu's father who was sitting on the sofa. "Hello, uncle, I am Li Jie." His father-in-law looks a bit hard to describe. I don't know how the other party managed to marry such a beautiful mother-in-law. Fortunately, Lu Kaiu looks like his mother, otherwise he would have lost his beautiful, long-legged secretary. Father Lu had no idea that the cheap son-in-law in front of him was arranging him in his mind. Seeing that Li Jie had such a low profile and no trace of the arrogance of a rich man, his impression of him improved a lot. He hummed slightly and nodded to Li Jie. People are so realistic. If an ordinary boy comes to the door, no matter how low the attitude is, Liu's father and Liu's mother will feel that they should be punished. But it is different for Li Jie, a super rich man. This makes them feel very proud. "Uncle and aunt, this is my first time coming to your house. I don't know what you like, so I just bought something," Li Jie said, putting the zonghua and mutai he was carrying on the coffee table. Lu Kaiu also put down the supplements and fruits. "Dad, Li Jie bought you some cigarettes and wine, Mom bought these boxes of tonics for you." Liu's mother smiled and said politely, "Xiao Jie, it's just fine when you come. There's no need to buy anything. Come on, sit down quickly, you're welcome, just treat it as your own home. It's just a little bit of caution. Just don't dislike it, you and your uncle." Li Jie and Lu Kaiu sat down on the sofa together, then looked around and found that Lu Kaiu's house was not big, only about 70 square meters, and the decoration was a bit old, which can only be said to be passable. Mother Lu went to the kitchen and brought a lot of fruits, peanuts, melon seeds, and candies. "Xiao Jie, you eat fruit. Xiaoyu, peel an apple for Xiaojie." "Thank you, Auntie," Li Jie expressed his gratitude with a smile. Lu Kaiu did not peel the apple, but picked up a sugar orange with a smile. He prefers oranges. "Okay, then peel some more oranges for Xiaojie." Mother Lu also sat down on the sofa. "Xiaojie, Xiaoyu, are you in the same class?" "Yes, Xiaoyu and I are in the same class." "When did you two get together?" "I've had a crush on Xiaoyu for a long time, but we officially got together in our sophomore year." "So, it was you who chased her?" "Yes, I chased her." "Auntie, actually I should have come to visit you and uncle a long time ago, but I delayed it until now for various reasons. Of course, this is all my fault." Mother Lu and Li Jie were mainly chatting, while Father Lu on the side spoke less, only occasionally saying something. After chatting for a while, Liu's mother's impression of Li Jie became better and better. This boy is particularly mature, calm, and good at talking. Liu's mother also asked her daughter about the relationship between the two. Although Lu Kaiu said that the two had a good impression of each other and came together naturally, she could see that her daughter should be more proactive. But when it came to Li Jie's mouth, she turned into the daughter he actively pursued. Liu's mother had a good impression of Li Jie, and Li Jie also had a good impression of her. This mother-in-law is very easy to fool. Liu's mother works in a university, and the environment in universities is relatively simpler, not as complicated as the workplace or government agencies. It can be seen that Mother Liu's thoughts are relatively simple. What Li Jie found more difficult to deal with was Liu's father. Although he didn't talk much, he could ask key points in every sentence. "Hey! It's quite late. I should go cook." Mother Lu glanced at the clock on the wall and stood up from the sofa. "Xiao Jie, What kind of food do you like to eat? Li Jie said with a smile, Auntie, I'm not picky about food. Just make whatever you want. I like to eat them all. Lu Kaiu smiled and added, Mom, he is really not picky about food and eats everything. Can you eat spicy food? You can eat some. Xiao Yu, you come with me to help in the kitchen. Lao Lu, sit with Xiaojie for a while. When Liu's mother took Lu Kaiu to the kitchen, Liu's father picked up the cigarettes on the coffee table, took out one himself, and handed another to Li Jie. Seeing Li Jie hesitate, he asked, Why, you don't smoke? I don't smoke often. Li Jie took the cigarette with a smile. Then he picked up the lighter and helped Liu's father light the cigarette first, and then lit it for himself. Father Lu took a deep breath of cigarette and felt that the taste of the cigarette was very different. These are cigarettes lit by billionaires. You don't smoke much, how about drinking? A little beer and wine occasionally. Liu's mother had finished her cross-examination, and this time it was Liu's father who was more difficult to deal with. In the kitchen, Liu's mother was also asking her daughter about Li Jie. After hearing that Lu Kai said that she had become the director of the president's office and had real power, Liu's mother immediately felt more relieved. With her daughter staying by Li Jie's side, even if a third party wants to get involved, it won't be that easy. Mother Lu never expected that Li Jie, a guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes, would actually be a playboy and a scumbag, and he would hug him unscrupulously. But her proud daughter is just one of the other woman's women. Mother Lu and Lu Kai worked in the kitchen for nearly 2 hours, and it was around 7 p.m. before they finished cooking. I cooked a total of 18 dishes, which was more abundant than the Chinese New Year. Lu Kai is not at home, and Liu's father and mother are not thinking about celebrating the New Year. Fortunately, my daughter came back with her future son-in-law on the 4th day of junior high school. That's right, in the eyes of Liu's father and Liu's mother, Li Jie was already considered his future son-in-law. After a detailed interrogation, they had already recognized each other in their hearts. What mother-in-law wouldn't like a son-in-law like Li Jie, who is young, promising, and rich with hundreds of millions of dollars? And what parent doesn't want their daughter to live a life of good food and clothing? Of course, if you find out that Li Jie is a playboy, that's a different story. It is still difficult for a family like the Lu family to accept their daughter being a lover for others. However, Lu Kai is not considered a lover. How can there be a lover who has the opportunity to get a certificate? Come on, Xiaojie, eat more. Mother Lu frequently brought vegetables to Li Jie. And Liu's father also frequently persuaded him to drink. After half a bottle of Mao Tai was consumed, Li Jie became a little drunk. Lu Kai couldn't help but say, Dad, don't let him drink all the time, he can't drink enough. Father Lu glanced at his daughter and couldn't help but feel a little sad. Before she got married, his daughter's elbows began to turn outwards. Mother Lu gave Li Jie some more food, and then said, Xiaojie, you plan to develop in Shanghai for a long time in the future, right? Tanzhou is thousands of kilometers away from Shanghai. If your daughter marries to Shanghai, she will marry far away. Li Jie nodded. If an internet company wants to grow bigger, it must choose a first-tier city to settle. The most suitable ones are Shanghai and Shenzhen. However, there is already Penguin Company in Shenzhen City. Father Lu and Mother Lu looked at each other after hearing this. Their future son-in-law was so bold that he actually made Penguin Company a target. If an ordinary young lover dared to say this, they would definitely think that the other party was bragging, but this is a business wizard who made more than 3 billion worth in just 2 or 3 years. When people say it, it's called having great ambitions. Li Jie saw the concerns of Liu's father and Liu's mother, uncle, and aunt. Shanghai is a little far away from Tanzhou, but now the transportation is developed, and it only takes more than 2 hours by plane. When the holidays come, you can go to Shanghai to see Xiaoyu and take a trip. After a pause, he added, I will also try my best to take time to accompany Xiaoyu back to Tanzhou to visit you and your two elders. After hearing this, Father Lu and Mother Lu nodded, and that was all. Who made his daughter take a fancy to the other party? Besides, they were not willing to let their daughter give up on such a good candidate for son-in-law. By the time we finished eating, it was already past 9 p.m. Mother Lu glanced at Li Jie, who was obviously a little drunk, and said, "Xiao Jie, it's so late, so don't leave tonight and stay at home for the night. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 440. It is obviously inappropriate to let the man stay overnight before marriage. But the daughter has already lived in the other party's home, so there is no need to worry so much. Thinking like this, Mother Lu continued, "Xiaoyu, I will stay in your room. Xiaojie, you live with your uncle." Lu Kai's home only has 2 rooms and 1 living room. Li Jie glanced at Liu's father. He didn't want to live with this cheap father-in-law. At this time, Liu's father also looked at Li Jie, his eyes clearly indicating that he did not want to live with his cheap son-in-law. Then trouble uncle and aunt, Li Jie turned around and said to Liu's mother with a smile. The kindness was hard to come by, so he had no choice but to go with the man. No, he was spending the night with his cheap father-in-law. Wait until tomorrow to see if I can go to live with Lu Kaiu in the city. Li Jie also has a house in Tanzhou, located in Furong district, only about 20 minutes drive from Liu's house. That night, Li Jie didn't sleep very well. His cheap father-in-law was so ugly that he snored very loudly. He didn't know how his beautiful mother-in-law could endure it all these years. The next day, Father Lu got up early in the morning after having had enough sleep. Li Jie also got up, but his energy was not very good. Last night, he listened to Liu's father's loud snoring and didn't fall asleep until 2 or 3 in the morning. Noticing the bloodshot eyes in Li Jie's eyes, Liu's mother asked, "Xiao Jie, what's wrong? Didn't you get a good rest last night?" She thought of something and glanced at Father Lu. "Is he snoring?" Lu Kaiu said with a smile, "When my dad drinks, he snores loudly, like thunder." Father Lu was a little unhappy. Who among men doesn't snore? As he said that, he looked at Li Jie and said, "You are so young that you can't fall asleep if there is any movement. Your physical fitness is not good enough." Lu Kaiu couldn't help but said, "Dad, he is in good health." When Father Lu and Mother Lu heard this, they looked at each other and turned their attention to their daughter. Lu Kaiu was a little confused by what they saw, and then she thought of something, and her pretty face couldn't help but turn red. Li Jie is as healthy as an animal. After breakfast, Li Jie and Lu Kaiu sat on the sofa and chatted with Liu's father and Liu's mother. On the 5th day of the Lunar New Year, the shopping malls are not open yet, so even if you go shopping, there is not much to see. Mother Lu glanced at Li Jie and said, "Xiao Jie, if you haven't had a good rest, go to Xiaoyu's room and sleep for a while." Li Jie smiled and said, "Auntie, it's okay, no need." Then he turned to look at Lu Kaiu. "Xiaoyu, how about we go check out that house in the city? That house has never been occupied, so it's time to tidy it up." Father Lu and Mother Lu were a little surprised when they heard this. Mother Lu asked, "Xiaojie, have you bought a house in Tanzhou?" Lu Kaiu smiled and added, "Mom, he likes to hoard houses and has houses all over the country." Li Jie glanced at Lu Kaiu with a smile and found that she looked younger than a girl in front of her parents. "Auntie, I bought an ordinary house in Furong district." Mother Lu asked with concern, "How many square meters is the house? How much did it cost?" "Not big, 170 square meters, 4 bedrooms and 2 living rooms." Li Jie paused and said, "I bought it in early 2009. At that time, the house price was not so high, so I spent more than 1.1 million. Nowadays, the house prices in Tanzhou are generally more than 3,000 yuan. With a down payment of 100,000 yuan, you can buy a house in a prosperous area in the city center. However, in an era when the average salary is 1 to 2,000 yuan, most ordinary people cannot afford a down payment of 100,000 yuan. 170 square meters is not big enough? Just over 1.1 million? Father Lu and Mother Lu were speechless, not knowing what to say. Li Jie had always behaved very low-key in front of them, so much so that they all overlooked that the other party was a rich man worth more than 3 billion. A house with an area of 170 square meters and more than 1 million yuan costs more than 6,000 per square meter on average. At the beginning of 2009, the house price was definitely a high-end community in a prosperous urban area. Nowadays, the price of high-end residential areas in urban areas has generally risen to more than 10,000. Lu Kaiu said to Father Lu and Mother Lu, "Dad, Mom, will you two come with us to see that house?" Mother Lu and Father Lu looked at each other, then smiled and agreed, "Okay." However, just as they were preparing to go out, someone came to pay New Year's greetings. The relatives who came were Lu Kaiu's aunt and uncle, and her cousin. Mother Lu has 3 brothers and sisters, and she is the second sister. When relatives came, they would definitely not be able to go out anymore. Li Jie accompanied Lu Kaiu and Liu's father and mother to entertain the guests. Lu Kaiu's aunt can only be said to be average-looking, far inferior to Liu's mother, but her uncle is very good-looking. It can be seen that he must have been a handsome boy when he was young. Lu Kaiu's cousin, who is 3 years younger than her, is in her 3rd year of high school this year. She looks like her uncle and is also very beautiful. The cousins seem to have a good relationship, sitting together and chatting and laughing quietly. The cousin would look at Li Jie curiously from time to time. The aunt and uncle had long heard that their niece had found a very good boyfriend, so they were very curious about Li Jie and asked about him. Li Jie discovered that Liu's father and Liu's mother had not told their relatives and friends about his situation. In other words, the information they disclosed is outdated. In the eyes of his uncle and aunt, he was just an aspiring, no, a promising young man who had just started his own business. Naturally, Li Jie would not show off his worth in front of them. The uncle looked at Li Jie and his eyes fell on the Omega watch he wore on his right hand. He felt that the boyfriend his niece had found was very special. He was extremely calm for a young age, and he was also knowledgeable. No matter what he was talking about, he could talk about everything. In addition, judging from the other party's dress and temperament, it is obvious that he does not come from an ordinary family. It seems that his niece has really found a good match. After finishing lunch, my aunt and uncle stayed for a while and then their family left. Then Li Jie, Lu Kaiu, Liu's father and Liu's mother went out to see the house in the city. They did not choose to take a taxi. Liu's father owned an old black Jetta that he usually drove to work. Father Lu handed the key to Li Jie. "Xiao Jie, will you drive?" Li Jie took the key and did not rush to get in the car. Instead, he opened the passenger door for Lu Kaiu first. Noticing this scene, Liu's mother couldn't help but nodded in her heart. This Li Jie is not only rich and capable, but also so considerate, which is really rare. Xiaoyu also has really good taste. Thinking this, Mother Lu turned to look at Father Lu, who had already gotten into the car. Why did she fall in love with him in the first place? At this time, Li Jie came over again to help Liu's mother open the car door. "Auntie, you can get in the car too." Mother Lu looked at Li Jie and liked her son-in-law even more. A son-in-law is better than a husband. It was only a 20-minute drive and we arrived quickly. The old black Jetta came to Furong district and drove into a high-end community. Father Lu and Mother Lu were sitting in the back seat, looking at the environment of the community through the car window. The environment of this community is very beautiful, with well-proportioned layout, fountain sculptures, and large lawns. Liu's father and mother nodded repeatedly when they saw it. It's just too expensive. It's more than 10,000 yuan per square meter. They have paid a total of more than 100,000 yuan over the years, which is only enough to buy one bedroom. However, to their son-in-law, a house here is nothing. After getting off the bus, Li Jie, Lu Kaiu, Liu's father and Liu's mother walked into a residential building and took the elevator upstairs. This community has two households on one floor, and Li Jie's house is located on the east side. Taking out the key and opening the door, Li Jie and Lu Kaiu walked in together. The house with 4 bedrooms and 2 living rooms is very luxuriously decorated, and the furniture and appliances are also high-end. It's just that it hasn't been occupied for a long time, so some dust has fallen. Father Lu and Mother Lu looked around with admiration on their faces. But Lu Kaiu's expression was very dull. In her opinion, this house was only larger in size, location, and decoration, far inferior to her house on the Bund, let alone the Platinum Bay Mansion and Sandalwood Villa. Mother Lu looked away and looked at Li Jie with a smile. "Xiao Jie, your house is really nice." Li Jie smiled and said, "Auntie, if you like it, you can just move here with your uncle. This house is empty anyway." When Liu's mother heard this, she quickly shook her head and said, "We don't need to live in such a good house, so you and Xiaoyu should keep it." "Why don't you need to live there? You and your uncle have raised such an outstanding daughter as Xiaoyu. It's time to enjoy the blessings." Li Jie said and glanced at Lu Kaiu, "You don't have to worry about us. Xiaoyu and I don't lack a house to live in. I bought this house for Xiaoyu, and I also honor you too." Lu Kaiu also smiled and said, "Mom, you and my dad can just move here. It's just a house. It's nothing to him. The villa he owns in Shanghai costs more than 200 million. More than 200 million? Father Lu and Mother Lu looked at each other, their eyes full of shock. Mother Lu thought for a while and said, "Okay, we will come and stay here occasionally and help you look after the house." Li Jie, Lu Kaiu, Liu's father and Liu's mother worked together to clean the house inside and out. "They won't go back tonight and will stay here." Li Jie didn't want to have sex with his cheap father-in-law again. No, they were living in the same house. After cleaning the house, Li Jie took a taxi to the supermarket with Lu Kaiu and Liu's mother to buy ingredients. And Liu's father drove home to pick up things. After dinner in the evening, Li Jie and Lu Kaiu watched 2 episodes of the TV series with Liu's mother. When it was around 9 o'clock, they all went back to their rooms to rest. There are 4 bedrooms and 2 living rooms, 3 of which are bedrooms and 1 is a study room. Liu's mother and Liu's father occupied the master bedroom, while Li Jie and Lu Kaiu occupied the other 2 secondary bedrooms. As soon as Liu's mother returned to the room, she saw Liu's father lying on the bed, snoring loudly. Father Lu drank again in the evening, and drank a little too much. He went back to his room to rest early in the morning. Mother Lu frowned and hit Father Lu hard with her elbow. After Father Lu was woken up, he was a little confused and asked, "What time is it now?" "It's past 9 o'clock." Mother Lu opened the quilt and lay down. "It's only around 9 o'clock. Then I didn't sleep long," Father Lu said and began to take off his clothes. He didn't take off his clothes before and went to bed without taking a shower. After taking off his clothes and lying down, Father Lu looked at Mother Lu next to him. His heart moved and he leaned over. "Go away, you smell of alcohol, don't touch me." Liu's mother pushed him away with a look of disgust. "Then I'll take a shower. I'm sleepy, I'd better go to bed early." In another bedroom, Li Jie was leaning on the bedside, holding his laptop and watching the live broadcast. During the Chinese New Year, most people take a holiday. However, most of the anchors did not take holidays and rest, but instead worked longer hours. When people are free, they have more time to watch live broadcasts. For anchors, the New Year is a rare time to generate income. Li Jie, the internet tycoon, first went to the rooms of Chen Xian, Su Yani, Zhao Minjiao and Sun Wanning to buy gifts and help them enhance the atmosphere in the live broadcast room. Then he put on his vest and started teasing the young anchors. Recently, Li Jie made a new vest that says "I am your husband," specifically to tease pretty young anchors to call them husband. Now many young anchors say that my husband is here when they see him coming. I have to say, it's great to have money. Beautiful girls take the initiative to call you husband. There are also many small anchors who send private messages to ask Li Jie to work in private. Xiao Qiao and the others all said he was a scumbag and too carefree, but could they blame him? There are too many temptations, okay. After teasing another young anchor, it was already past 11 o'clock, so Li Jie turned off Kudong video. His cheap father-in-law and beautiful mother-in-law should both be sleeping by now, right? With this in mind, Li Jie got up from the bed and left the room. He came outside Lu Kai's room and knocked lightly on the door. After waiting for no movement for a while, he knocked on the door again with a little more force. This time the door opened. Lu Kai was wearing a more conservative nightgown. She was a little sleepy. She must have fallen asleep, but she was woken up by Li Jie again. "Husband, why are you here? What are you doing here?" "Of course I came here, to sleep. I'm afraid you'll be lonely, so I came here to stay with you," Li Jie said, hugged Lu Kai and walked into the room. Lu Kai glanced at him and said with a smile, "Are you afraid that I will be lonely?" "I think you are lonely." She also deliberately emphasized the word loneliness. "Okay, I'm lonely." Li Jie hugged Lu Kai and came to the bed, gently caressed her beautiful legs and started playing with them, not admiring them. He has been admiring these long legs for more than a year, but he still hasn't had enough. "Husband. What's wrong?" Lu Kai's tone was a little hesitant. "I have a class reunion tomorrow, can you go with me?" Li Jie smiled and said, "I will definitely go with you." After a pause, he continued, "You are so beautiful, how can I feel safe going to a class reunion alone?" After hearing this, Lu Kai's pretty face showed joy and gave him an angry look. Li Jie understood Lu Kai's thoughts very well. He just wanted to take him to meet his classmates and show off. "Xiao Yu, I accompanied you to the class reunion, shouldn't you also repay me?" "What do you want in return?" Lu Kai didn't know what she thought of, her pretty face turned a little red. Li Jie smiled playfully and whispered something in her ear. Lu Kai blushed even more after hearing this, but she still hummed softly. Master bedroom. Mother Lu had just fallen asleep, and Father Lu suddenly started snoring again. After being woken up, Liu's mother angrily slapped Liu's father, but Liu's father just opened his eyes and continued to sleep. Soon, the deafening snoring sounded again and again. Mother Lu sighed softly and sat up from the bed. She took the mobile phone on the bedside and looked at the time and found that it was already past 12 o'clock. "Let's go to my daughter's room to sleep as usual. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 441. Dong dong dong. "Xiao Yu, are you asleep?" "Mom, are you okay?" Your dad snored again. It was so noisy that I couldn't sleep, so I came over to sleep with you. Open the door for me first." "Mom, you want to sleep with me? What's wrong? Didn't we often sleep together in the past?" "Xiao Yu, what's wrong with you, what's going on in your house?" "Xiao Zhe. Why are you, Auntie, I'll come over to chat with Xiao Yu. As the saying goes, if you often walk by the river, you can't help but get your shoes wet." Li Jie is always cheating on others and bullying their daughters under the eyes of his father-in-law and mother-in-law, which is very exciting. But this time he was in trouble. While talking to Lu Kai, he was blocked in the room by Liu's mother. "Come over and chat." Mother Lu was here, How could she not see what the two of them were doing before? She was a little hesitant, but soon felt relieved. After all, she had long guessed that her daughter and Li Jie might have had an affair, and now it was only confirmed. Besides, it's understandable that young people are in good health and would be a little greedy about that. You two, don't talk too late, and pay attention to your safety. After Liu's mother finished speaking, she gave Li Jie and Lu Kaiyu an unexpectedly long look, then turned and left. It's all your fault. You have to come here, can't you bear it? Now that's good, I was caught by my mother. Lu Kaiyu was ashamed and angry, so she beat Li Jie several times. Xiaoyu, did you really hit me? Li Jie felt very wronged. Can this be all his fault? Wasn't she very proactive just now? The next day, Liu's father got up early as usual, only to find that Liu's mother was no longer in the room. He got up and left the bedroom, went to the living room, and happened to meet Liu's mother coming out of the study. Why did you go to the study and fall asleep? Mother Lu became angry when she heard this. You are snoring so loudly, how can I sleep? Then why didn't you go to sleep in Xiaoyu's house? Liu's father asked. Xiaoyu, it's so late, Xiaoyu is already asleep. Mother Lu said, remembering what happened last night again. Young people are really old. Lu, let's sleep in separate rooms from now on. Thanks to her son-in-law having a big house to live in and more rooms, she doesn't have to endure it any longer. Sleeping in separate rooms. Why? I've had enough of your purring. Father Lu felt a little baffled as he watched Mother Lu walk into the kitchen. Didn't he just snore, and she was like this? When Liu's mother was about to prepare breakfast, Li Jie also came out of the room. He smiled and said hello to Liu's father and Liu's mother as if nothing was wrong. Good morning, uncle. Auntie, are you cooking? Father Lu nodded to Li Jie, not knowing that this guy bullied his precious daughter into tears last night. Mother Lu poked her head out of the kitchen and gave Li Jie a meaningful look. Xiao Jie, the meal will be ready soon. You go and wash up first. After Li Jie finished washing, Liu's mother also put the food on the table. Father Lu glanced in the direction of Lu Kaiyu's room, frowned and said, why isn't Xiaoyu up yet? I'll go call her. Li Jie stood up. But Liu's mother stopped him. I'd better go. After a while, Lu Kaiyu came back with Liu's mother. Her hair was messy, her eyes were red and swollen, and she looked haggard, as if she hadn't had a good rest. Father Lu glanced at her and couldn't help but said, how many times have I told you, don't stay up late playing on the computer or anything like that? This is very bad for your health. After hearing this, Lu Kaiyu couldn't help but look at Li Jie angrily. This guy was, but he made her embarrassed in front of her mother and was scolded by her father. Mother Lu also set her sights on Li Jie. On the surface, her son-in-law looked stable and gentle, but behind the scenes, her daughter was clearly tortured. Just like what my daughter said, his qualities are indeed good. After finishing the meal, Lu Kaiyu went back to the room to put on makeup and change clothes. Today is the 6th day of the Lunar New Year, the Spring Festival holiday is almost over, and most shopping malls have resumed business. Li Jie was going to go shopping with Lu Kaiyu and went to the Ford store to buy a mobility scooter. You can't go to the class reunion in the evening in that old Jetta. Father Lu was leaning on the imported sofa, drinking tea and watching the big TV, enjoying himself a lot. It is indeed good to have a rich son-in-law. Thinking this, he glanced at Li Jie who was sitting aside. In the bedroom, Lu Kaiyu was picking out clothes when she saw Liu's mother opening the door and walking in. Mom, what's wrong with you? Mother Lu did not speak, but looked around the room first, focusing on the trash can. Then she said, Xiaoyu, you and Xiaojia didn't take any defensive measures. Yeah, Lu Kaiyu hummed a little embarrassedly. Always, or just this once? Never, he didn't like it? Mother Lu frowned upon hearing this. Then you have been taking medicine. Lu Kai shook her head lightly. No, he said, taking medicine is bad for your health. After hearing this, Mother Liu's brows relaxed a little. But you two don't take any defensive measures. What should you do if you get pregnant? After all, you haven't graduated yet. Also, have you two considered getting married? Lu Kai said nonchalantly, if you're pregnant, you'll have to drop out of school and give birth. She also wished she could get pregnant early and come out on top. Li Jie said that if she gets pregnant, we will get married early. A look of surprise appeared on Mother Liu's face. Xiao Jie, did you really say that? She had actually wanted to ask Li Jie if he had any plans to get married, but she couldn't bring herself to ask. After all, the daughter and the other party have only been together for a short time, so asking about marriage now would make them appear too anxious. Yeah, Lu Kai nodded. Mother Lu didn't speak anymore, but fell into deep thought. It would also be a good thing if my daughter could get married early. An outstanding boy like Li Jie should be caught as soon as possible. If it is delayed, things will easily change. Thinking about this, Mother Lu asked again, Xiao Yu, how long have you two been in a relationship? Lu Kai thought for a moment and said, it's been almost a year. It's been a year, and you haven't taken any defensive measures, and you're not pregnant yet. Mother Liu's tone was filled with surprise that could not be concealed. There won't be anything wrong with Xiaoji's health, right? That shouldn't happen, right? His physical fitness is so good. Lu Kai said this, but she was also very unsure in her heart. Li Jie is not the only woman, there are also Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Shen Xinyi, and others, but among all of them, not even one of them is pregnant. This is indeed a bit abnormal. Especially Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu have been tortured by that guy for more than 2 years. If there was something wrong with his health, how could she get pregnant and come out on top? Doesn't this make things difficult for her? It is said that women with makeup and without makeup are two different things, and this is also true. Lu Kai looked a little haggard when she first woke up, but after putting on makeup, she immediately became energetic and radiant. In fact, Lu Kai and Xiao Jiao are pretty good, and the difference between bare makeup and makeup is not that big. There are many beauties who are made up and can't even look at them once they take off their makeup. After saying hello to Liu's father and Liu's mother, Li Jie and Lu Kai went out together. First they took a taxi to a Ford store and bought a Mercedes-Benz C260L, and then the two of them walked around the city. At around 6 o'clock in the evening, Li Jie drove Lu Kai to a specialty restaurant in the county in his newly purchased C260L. This white C260L is beautiful, not expensive, and is very suitable for Lu Kai and Liu's mother to drive around. As for Liu's father, he should still drive the old Jetta. Not many people came to the party. There were only a dozen people in the box, and there were more women than men. According to Lu Kai, there are more than 40 people in their class, which means less than 1/3 are here. Seeing Lu Kai and Li Jie walking in together, everyone in the box stood up. Xiao Yu, you're here. Kai, I haven't seen you for such a long time, you have become even more beautiful. It can be seen that Lu Kai is very popular, and these classmates are very enthusiastic towards her. While Lu Kai was greeting her classmates, Li Jie also looked at her classmates. 4 boys and 9 girls. There is only one boy who looks pretty good, the rest are average, but there are 2 or 3 girls who look pretty good. Xiao Yu, who is this? A beautiful girl with a petite figure and fair skin looked at Li Jie and asked. After hearing what she said, everyone in the box also turned their attention to Li Jie. Lu Kai glanced at Li Jie and introduced, this is my boyfriend Li Jie, who is also my classmate in college. Then, she introduced Li Jie to the people present. The petite and beautiful girl is named Jiro, the good-looking boy is named Johung, and so on. After exchanging a few words, everyone sat down again. Many people looked back and forth at Li Jie and Lu Kai. In high school, Lu Kaiu was the most beautiful girl in the class and one of the most outstanding girls in the school. After not seeing each other for a year or two, she became even more beautiful and elegant, even surprising them all. Although Li Jie is not particularly handsome, his appearance and temperament are unusual. He is obviously not an ordinary boy, which also makes them curious. The girl named Jiro glanced at Lu Kaiu first, then looked at Li Jie and said with a smile, "Li Jie, how did you catch up with our Xiao Yu?" Li Jie also glanced at Lu Kaiu and said, "Sincerity is the reason, gold and stone are the same." Lu Kaiu smiled and said, "Actually, he didn't take the initiative to chase me, it was me who took the initiative to chase him." When the people present heard this, they became even more curious. What is so special about Li Jie that a beautiful and outstanding girl like Lu Kaiu can take the initiative to pursue him? After waiting for a while, 2 more people came, and everyone was almost there. The boy named Jo Hung called the waiter and everyone started ordering. After the food was served, everyone chatted while eating. Li Jie spoke very little. He sat next to Lu Kaiu and listened to her reminiscing with her classmates, and he got to know her a little bit about her in high school. To put it simply, she is beautiful and generous, has great talents, and is favored by teachers and students. The only shortcoming is her average learning. After chatting for a while, a pretty and charming girl said, "Kaiu, I heard that you are interning in Shanghai." "Soon, I'm going to Shanghai for an internship." Her tone was a bit competitive. This girl named Xia Xiaofei had some trouble with Lu Kaiu, or she was jealous of Lu Kaiu. A girl who had a good relationship with Xia Xiaofei asked, "Xiaofei, which company are you going to intern at?" Xia Xiaofei said a little proudly, "It's Kudong Group." Another girl asked, "What kind of company is Kudong Group? Is it very famous?" A boy said, "You don't even know about Kudong Group. It's the company that signed Lu Yufei. This company has developed and distributed many popular games such as Dandan Tang, Tower of Ion and League of Legends. Also the recently released Unfortunately was also filmed by this company." As soon as they heard people on the road, everyone present knew it. This movie has become very popular recently, taking in more than 200 million at the box office within 5 days of its release. Someone complimented and said, "Xiaofei, you are very good, you can enter such a good company for internship." They all knew that the school Xia Xiaofei went to was not very good, and it must be relevant to have the opportunity to intern in a big company. Xia Xiaofei smiled and said, "The boss of Kudong Group was on the Forbes rich list this year, with a net worth of 3.6 billion, and he is still the youngest billionaire on the list, only in his 20s. As she said this, she thought of something and looked at Li Jie and Lu Kaiu. "Kaiu, the boss of Kudong Group is also named Li Jie, and he has the same name as your boyfriend. Don't you think it's a coincidence?" Her tone was teasing, and the meaning behind her words was incomparable to that of your boyfriend. After hearing this, Lu Kaiu and Li Jie looked at each other, both of them showing funny expressions. A girl with a relatively introverted personality and few words suddenly said, "Xiao Yu, aren't you also an intern at Kudong Group?" After hearing what this girl said, everyone present looked surprised. Jiro, Jo Hung, and others were even more thoughtful, looking back and forth between Lu Kaiu and Li Jie. Xia Xiaofei couldn't help but ask, "Kaiu, are you interning at Kudong Group?" "Right. Which department?" Lu Kaiu glanced at Li Jie and said, "President's office." "President's office?" Xia Xiaofei's expression suddenly changed, and she was confused. Jiro, Jo Hung, and others seemed to have guessed something. They looked at Lu Kaiu and Li Jie and hesitated to speak. Jiro glanced at Li Jie and asked, "Xiao Yu, isn't your boyfriend the boss of Kudong Group?" Lu Kaiu glanced at Li Jie with a smile, then nodded to Jiro and Jo Hung, "Yes, he is that Li Jie." Her voice was very soft, but it shocked all of Jiro, Jo Hung, and Xia Xiaofei. They were surprised, shocked, and unbelievable. Although they had all guessed Li Zhe's identity, they still found it incredible to hear Lu Kaiyu actually admit it. They actually sat together with a rich man worth more than 3 billion. The other person is still the boyfriend of their classmate. This is too unbelievable. The eyes of those present looking at Li Zhe changed instantly, with curiosity mixed with awe. At the same age as them, the other party has earned a net worth of more than 3 billion. How did this happen? Even with the background, it's incredible. The girls looked at Lu Kaiyu with even more envy. Lu Kaiyu must be so lucky. She actually applied to the same university as a potential stock like Li Zhe, and they were in the same class. This is simply a destiny of wealth and honor. No wonder she took the initiative to pursue Li Zhe. With such a top potential stock, which girl would not take the initiative? Are you really Mr. Li of Kudong Group? Xia Xiaofei still didn't believe it, or didn't want to believe it. Li Zhe gave the other party a funny look. What's the benefit of me pretending to be him? In his opinion, this kind of jealousy and intrigue between little girls is just like playing house. The boy who was talking before suddenly slapped his thigh. I should have thought of it earlier. Mr. Li was studying in Hongcheng, Xiao Yu was also studying in Hongcheng, and you two live in the same city. I just didn't expect you two to be in the same school. It's really fate. After a pause, the boy said flatteringly, Mr. Li, I particularly admire your entrepreneurial experience. It's so amazing, and it's so impressive for us students from ordinary colleges and universities. I never thought I would have the opportunity to meet you. It's such an honor. The update is late. I wrote 400 more words for free.